We're going live now. So whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening. Would like to welcome everyone to our Planning Commission meeting. It's 5:36. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're starting a little bit late. We'll begin with the invocation. I'll offer the invocation, and I guess I'll use the Pledge of Allegiance because I forgot to do that in the interim. So I'll do that. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day, and we're grateful that we can come together as a planning commission to discuss the well-being of the community we live in. We're grateful for that community and for our neighbors and for the associations that we have. We ask that bless us that we can have meaningful discussion tonight on the items that are presented to us, and that we might be able to make a decision that is in the best interest of the community. And we ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Do we have a flag? You got it. Okay. If everyone will follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, commissioners. I also want to have it on record and publicly thank Rick Henry. We kind of missed that opportunity a little bit, and so I want to make sure that that's on record, that he's done a great service to the community, and we're grateful for everything that he's done and that he will continue to do. And so I want to make that put that on public record from me and from the commission. I'm sure the other commissioners have served with him, have hold him in high esteem, and we think that should be on public record. We want to welcome Doug Schill. I've known Doug for a few years, and he'll do a great job in this capacity, and we're grateful that he's here, and we're excited to get to know him. We also need to excuse Van. He will be late. He'll be arriving to the meeting late. He's had some personal issues, car trouble, I guess, and so he'll be here a little bit late. And so when he comes on, that means that Doug, if we get to voting, you will vote until Van comes online. So we'll go to the approval of the agenda. In that approval, the applicant for item 7A is asked to be removed from this meeting, and we will hear that at a later date. So for your information, and no other discussion or changes to the agenda, I'd look for a motion to approve that.
There was an addendum that just barely came out, Commissioner.
Oh, yes. So if everyone will please review the item
Revised 7B.
7B, make sure that they review that before we get to it or while we get to it, so that we're looking at the correct item. So if you can do that, thank you, Commissioner Hawley.
You're welcome.
So
just to clarify, so I understand correctly. 7A is still off the docket for tonight, right?
yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So with that, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda for tonight, September 2nd.
This is Commissioner Hawley. I make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight, September 2nd, 2020.
This is Commissioner Hanson. I second that.
I have a motion and a second. In favor, Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Musso. Okay, I saw that.
We can read your lips, Brian.
I still can't hear you. We're getting there. Commissioner Schill,
Yes, aye.
and I'm an aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. No, item 2A is the approval of the minutes from August 5th, 2020. So we're gonna have a chance to review those and submit any changes to Kathy, and I look for a motion on that.
I didn't see any, this Commissioner Holly, I didn't see any changes, but there's still a lot of loose ends from our last meeting, waiting for different responses and stuff. How do we handle those, Commissioner Smith?
Well, I believe in reference to what are you referring?
There was one, Commissioner Hanson had asked that we not send I'm looking for it again, but that they had to get back to us. And lot 111 comes to mind out there on Country Way. And it was way bigger than the rest of the lots. And we were wondering what their plan was for lot 111. And it was asked that they get back to us and let us know what their intent was. And then there's another on here about the Lomar and the FEMA study for additional condition 13. So there are a couple open ends here. I just wondered how those are handled as a matter of rule.
Well, I'll jump in and take that. It wasn't on Country Way. It was up in the Sienna Hills area about that one bigger lot.
Oh, okay.
We had that was already pre-owned by Troy Bellison, a previous city councilman. And instead of making two smaller ones, he just asked for one bigger lot because it was on that cul-de-sac and everything. So that's why it was a bigger lot, because it would have just been two that he would have owned. He just wanted one big lot that he'll probably build a little bit bigger vacation rental on, because again, that whole area is vacation rental. So I didn't feel it was an uncomfortable thing to do. You know, again, it's all still going to be vacation rental, but that was the just behind it, that he just didn't want to have two separate lots. He just wanted to build one bigger one. But it was because of the parking at the end of the cul-de-sac and things like that that would have made them kind of odd lots, was the rationale.
Well, didn't you say, Drew, that if he did that, he would need to install sprinklers if you build a bigger?
No, I mean, you can build a bigger one. You're still, you know, you're limited for any of these guys. That you can only have 10 people. If you don't build a sprinkler, it's only 10 people. That doesn't matter the size of the place. So yeah, if he wants to build a big one, use it more, then it will have sprinklers in it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I
probably. And to be honest with you, if I'm building one of those, I'm going to put them in anyway.
Sure.
Then I don't have to worry about being limited. So.
Right.
And he's a person who will definitely know that.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I know Troy, and I know his service on the city council as well. There is this other one, Commissioner Hanson recommended approval to city council with findings and conditions, and an additional 13 that no final plat be submitted until Lomar and FEMA study is completed. That was out on page.
That's on Country Way.
That's the one on Country Way. Yes.
Yeah, that condition was added. The city council approved that. So again, that's just something we forgot to put on, and it's on there now. And in fact, the council discussed that line and understood what it means. So they have to get that letter of map revision before they can apply for any final plats.
Good.
Brandon's online. He already knows that as well. So I think we're covered there.
Okay, good. I didn't know how we circled back to some of these things. So
yeah. Well, if you make it a condition, when you vote on it, it gets put on, it gets added to the conditions like what you see. It's just the council sees one more. And then they vote on it based on what you put on there. So just for your reference for future ones.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that, Drew. Okay, well, having gone through that, I appreciate it. This Commissioner Hawley, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from our last meeting, August 5th, 2020.
Commissioner Hanson, I second that.
A motion and a second. Commissioner Hawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson.
Aye.
Commissioner Shield.
Aye.
Commissioner Musso? Got it. No, I still can't hear you. But Commissioner Smith is an aye as well. Any declarations of abstentions or conflicts tonight?
I have none.
Seeing none, appears to have none. We'll move on to item 4A.
Hey, just a suggestion. Commissioner Musso, hit your space bar and hold it and see if that takes your mute off.
No. Well, we keep getting closer. You turned your mute on.
Got his mute on.
Oh,
Hmm.
Okay, so item 4A, this is a final plat, consideration and recommendation to City Council for the Burrito 3F final plat located at approximately 200 West Sunstone Way. Applicant is Cole West. And return time to staff.
That showed up on your screen, gentlemen?
Yes.
yes.
The applicant is requesting approval of the final plat for the Brio Phase 3F subdivision as stated. This particular subdivision is proposing 12 lots and the area of coverage is 2.81 acres. The zoning at this location is the Brio Planned Community Development or Brio PCD. The amended preliminary plat was approved back on August 12th, 2020. Staff has reviewed the requested proposal and the proposed final plat conforms to the approved amended preliminary plat. Staff therefore recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval for the final plat for the Brio Phase 3F subdivision onto the City Council. And that's based on the findings and subject to the conditions in your report, and it's the standard 5 conditions that we normally have. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that the commissioners might have on Brio 3F.
This is Commissioner Hawley. I have none. I think we pretty well covered all of this in our last meeting. For me, anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Any questions for staff?
Yeah.
Is there any concerns for the applicant, or does the applicant have anything they want to say if they're streaming? If
Mr. Chair, this is Greg Howell, and with CoWest, and we don't have anything to say. We're happy to respond to any specific questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks. I would entertain a motion on this item.
This is Commissioner Hawley. I'd like to make a motion that this Planning Commission recommend approval on the final plat for Brio Phase 3F subdivision to the City Council based on the following findings and subject to the conditions listed below 1 through 3 and conditions 1 through 5.
This is Commissioner Hanson. I second that motion.
Have a motion and a second. Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Schill,
Aye.
Commissioner Musso. Got it. And Commissioner Smith is an aye as well. Motion passes unanimously. Item 5A, this is a public hearing to consider approval for conditional use permit 2-20-06 to expand to existing cell tower located at approximately 550 West Vincent Lane. The applicant is T-Mobile and Verizon Wireless. Drew, you're on mute if you didn't know.
Yes, Drew's mute was on. I apologize. Let me start over. Trying to be polite, and sometimes it costs you. The applicant's requesting a CUP for the currently approved cell tower. The upgrades consist of adding 2 ground control boxes and 3 new antennas with associated RRUs for each of those new antennas. The attached exhibits show the size and location of the new items wishing to be installed at the current site. Staff, seeing no problems with the proposal, is recommending approval of the amendment to the current conditional use permit at this particular location, adding 3 antennas, 3 RRUs, and 2 ground control boxes at the site. Now, I'm just pointing out in this particular photo shows the red boxes of those 2 those boxes being added to the site. And then we will scroll, and then you can see in this area with the red highlighted antenna, there's 3 of those at each one of these. If you can see, they kind of have a 3 face to them. And so it's that size compared to the rest of the antennas is this particular one with the number 4 around it. Everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
And then if I scroll down a little bit, the RRUs are these 3 red boxes on the back side of those antennas and stuff that you see here. And there's 3 of those associated again with the 3 new antennas that you see in red as well. So with that, again, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve C-20-06, allowing for the upgrades and additions to the cell tower facility currently located at approximately 550 West Vincent Lane, based on the findings and subject to the conditions in your report. And basically the conditions are just making sure that any of the work that's done is following any codes or anything else that's approved by the city. And building permits, if there's any electrical involved, which I know there is because they're adding electrical boxes, they'll have to get building permits for that. So be glad to answer any questions the commissioners have on this conditional use permit application.
This is Commissioner Hawley. When they add those antennas and the RRUs, are the cross arms the same, or are they going to have to put on bigger cross arms, longer?
You know, I'm not sure. Do we have an applicant online, Steve? I don't know if they signed in.
I am online. Yep, I'm here on the phone, dialed in.
Okay. Did you get his question?
If you can hear me. Yes,
Yeah,
I did. So the mount will not. Yep, they will not need to be expanded. The current size of it's called a T-arm mount. The current size is sufficient to hold the new equipment. We won't need to expand it.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you very much.
Please state your name.
You're welcome.
State your name, applicant.
Yeah, name Larson Quick.
And you're with Verizon or T-Mobile?
T-Mobile.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner Hanson with a question. Is the reason for the upgrade, is this an upgrade? Is it going to handle more volume, or what's the reason for the addition?
Correct. The reason is to handle better capacity, as well as, so T-Mobile and Sprint recently had the merger happen, and this will allow the Sprint customers to better utilize and transfer into that T-Mobile network as well.
Okay. What, forgive me, I'm not that familiar with cell phone towers and how they operate, but in the process of additional upgrades in the future for capacity or upgraded technology, whatever it might be, is there still room to do that, or was this built out with this addition?
Yeah, there's still plenty of room on these mounts. We could add additional if we ever needed to.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
And I guess an additional comment on that, we do engineering on these, and the percentage of load on that mount is at 70, I believe it's 74%. So it's well below its capacity. 75%.
And what percent do you max them out? I mean, I obviously it might be 100, but I would think less than that would be the maximum.
Usually the building departments will accept up to like 105. I've seen accepted, but that would basically consist of, I think, adding about 1 additional antenna would put us to.
Okay. All All right, thank you.
Other questions for staff or the applicant?
The applicant will have to unmute because that feedback was causing it to mute. So they'll have to do *6 to talk again.
If there's, I'd entertain a motion on this.
This is Commissioner Hanson on item 5A.
Jason, this is a public.
I make a motion
Oh,
that
I'm sorry,
we,
this is a public
Hold on,
hearing.
Jason.
Hold on, I forgot, this is a public hearing, so do we have public comment at this point?
Yes, this is Denise. Sorry, I couldn't get my mute button fast enough.
My fault.
We have one public comment on this item. It's from Kevin Hooper, and it reads, I'm a property owner of the shopping center located at 568 West Telegraph Road, which includes the former Vincent Lane. I'm not opposed to the expansion of the additional panels on the existing cell tower. I do ask that a structural engineer certify to the city that the tower is capable of supporting additional panels. Any underground work necessary in the easement will need to be compacted and repaired to city standards. That's all.
Okay, and I believe he responded to that he's at 75% capacity structurally. And so if he has additional comments, he can, but I think he's answered it to my knowledge, but if anyone else wants to hear from him again. You there?
Are you talking to me?
Larson, are you trying to talk?
They're still muted, Chairman.
I guess commission, do you feel that's been, I think those items will be taken care of. I'm pretty confident they have been answered or taken care of. Commission, if you feel comfortable, I guess I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Hawley. I make a motion, we close the public hearing. I agree with you, Jason. I think that the gentleman answered the question about capacity and percentages and capabilities, that they're not hardly built out at all. So I make that motion, we close the public hearing.
Commissioner Hanson, I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Mr. Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Schill,
Aye.
Commissioner Musso.
Aye.
There you are.
Yes.
Well, I'm going in using my phone, and I don't know how to mute it though, and I got some dogs in the background, so bear with me.
That's okay. We appreciate you
We'll
speaking.
take you any way we can get you, Brian.
No, I know you'd rather not hear from me, so conspiracy.
That is not true.
For Jason, I guarantee it is.
No. Okay, well, I'm an aye as well. So the public hearing is closed on this item. Any further discussion on item 5A? Now that we can hear you, Commissioner Musso, if you have anything that you'd like to say, you can continue to talk.
No, I'm good. Good.
Then I'd entertain a motion on 5A.
This is Commissioner Hanson on item 5A. I make a motion, we'll get back to where it was, that we grant a conditional use permit for an addition to a current cell tower facility located approximately 550 West Vincent Lane, adhering to the findings and conditions listed in the staff report.
This is Commissioner Hawley. I second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Musso. We didn't hear you that time. Oh, no, I don't know. This is becoming fun. No. Commissioner Schill
Aye.
and Commissioner Smith said aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. Item 6A. This is also a public hearing for consideration recommendation to City Council for Pineview Estates Phase 1 plat amendment located at approximately 1977 West. What is that?
Alondra.
Alondra. Oh, I can't read. The purpose is to split the current lot into 2 lots. The applicant is Michael and Sandra Day.
Thank you. As stated, applicant is requesting approval of this amended final plat for basically specifically lot number 1. The reason for the amendment request is simply to split the lot into 2 pieces. Lot 1A will be 0.49 acres in size. And I pardon the labeling on this, but it can't be labeled lot 2A as you see on your exhibit because there's a lot 2 north of this and it'd be confusing. So I'm just hoping the engineer's on taking note of that. It would be lot B, 1B, and that size is proposing a 0.55 acre size. So the subdivision size and acreage remains the same for the entire subdivision as originally approved and existing now. Staff has reviewed the proposed amended final plat and finds it conforms to the PUD zoning of this development. The subdivision also remains in compliance with the subdivision ordinance of the city. Staff therefore recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the amended final plat for the Pineview Estates Phase 1 subdivision, splitting lot number 1 into lots 1A and 1B, and that would be moved on to the City Council based on the findings and subject to the conditions in your report. And they're basically the ones we would have for any final plat. And so I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have on this proposed change. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to switch over to the Washington City aerial, just so you get a view of the surrounding properties as well. So I'm going to leave this plat and just go to that real quick. And whoa, there we are already. So we'll let that catch up. And so this is the property in question, lot 1. You can see the backyard's not used at all in this particular case. So again, I'll answer any questions you might have.
So Drew, I have a question on just how this functions. So because this is a plat amendment, do all the members, all the people that own property inside the plat amendment, do they have to consent to that?
No, they don't have to consent. If you have 2 options on amending a plat, you can go and have every property owner sign off, or you hold a public hearing by your planning commission, city council. And that's always the one I recommend people do to amend a plat. And that's why this is a public hearing tonight. And then the council, depending whatever recommendation you give, will also have a public hearing. I think that's how it goes, or at least they have to have 1 public hearing. But that's the process that we're in tonight.
Okay.
And in fact, I think it is just 1 public hearing. And everybody within the subdivision, gets notice. It's not 300 feet around this. It's anybody amending a plat. It's every property owner in the subdivision gets a notice of this proposal.
We have to have the volume up.
Okay.
So fascinating.
Through this, Commissioner Hawley, do we know why they want to split this, or if they're online, are they going to sell it
I had chili on
for residential construction purposes?
Hopefully the days are online, but no, the intent is they want to split it for their son to build a home.
Do we have any?
On the new lot.
How's he going to access that?
Well, you see it in your exhibit. That's a flag lot.
Yeah, flag lot. Okay. That was my question. So they're going to enter. Yeah.
Yeah. This 26-foot wide driveway.
Right.
That's the minimum we allow on a flag lot. So
right. Okay.
It'll come off Alondra.
Right. I see it.
There will be no access. You can see it. It's written on the plat.
Yeah.
Off of Sandia or 2000 South because of the size of the road.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I can see it now that you pointed it out, but prior to that, anyway. Thank you, Drew.
You're fine. No problem.
Drew, this is Commissioner Hanson. How do the setbacks, I would assume that the house that's there currently inside 1A still has to meet, do they have to meet setbacks from the new 26, from the fence line, or how does that work?
From the property line. Yeah, so when I go back, let me just come back to this. So both these, the new home being built here would have to conform with the setbacks. This would probably be the front. These would be the sides and the rear back here. And even the existing home has to be in a place that meets the minimum setback in the rear, which it looks like from their picture here, they've got plenty of room.
Right.
I was thinking about the north side, when they come down that driveway there, if you will, to enter.
Yeah, this will be that one there.
Yes.
Yeah, depending on where that home is, I'm pretty sure they'll meet it, because even if a half-acre lot, it's only a 10-foot setback.
Okay.
So I'm just looking off of this view right here, taking 26 feet. I bet you that's almost halfway through the lot, and that lot is
21,000.
it would be 75 feet minus the home. So I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we're good over in this area right here that I'm kind of running my, mouse thing along. That's where you were questioning, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I understand one of my questions is going to be the same that was asked about, is the intent to sell this to a family member or somebody in the general public? Because in the future, if these lots were ever sold to, if it's a family member, I can understand a little bit more why there might be some leeway. But if those were two completely unrelated people that own those lots in the future, that those setbacks might come more into play to be followed, as opposed to if they know each other. If it's my son that lives next to me, I'm willing to give leeway. But if it's somebody I don't know that the lot was sold to, that's a different story.
Well, just to answer that, to help you, we wouldn't even let that, even if it's family members saying it's okay, they all have to meet the city required setbacks, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We won't put anybody in a circumstance like that. So whenever I do a flag lot, I always tell them they have to still have that minimum setback from the existing home to the new property lines.
Okay.
It has to be that way. Yeah.
And for utilities, how does the new lot tie in? Just right down the driveway, or?
Yeah, they basically have to run whatever they're going to run right down through here. Or in this case, they could tie them over here if it's closer and easier.
Okay. All right.
I was wondering when you were going to get around to that pencil.
You guys love my drawings and you know it.
We need a reason for another color now, so you can have dual colors on this one.
Oh yeah, because I should have shown green for sewer and blue for water, and yeah. I know Jason Smith Commissioner Smith was going to say, Drew, you know the colors for the utilities, and I do.
Other questions for staff?
This is Commissioner Schill, or alternative commissioner. But my question is, it looks to me like this area has a lot of large lots, and are we opening the door for additional flag lots? Maybe that's not, I don't know if that's a problem or not.
No, that's a valid question, because that's the thing that might have other people do. So in fact, we've had a few phone calls, people asking about this that got notices. And I have two options for that, because again, I searched to find when the applicant first came in, I said, well, we need to make sure there is no minimum lot size stated. And so we searched and there isn't in the original PUD zoning. And so it's not held there, and the CC&Rs don't have it either. So that's two places that any of the other property owners could say, hey, if we do have a problem with this, and we don't want it to happen again, then I'd collectively get together and go amend my CC&Rs tomorrow, because they have the right to do that, and put minimum lot sizes in there.
Drew, the people, this is Commissioner Hanson, the people that called in, were they in the negative to this, or were they just general questions?
Well, I'm going to let Kathy kind of answer that. I only talked to one, and it wasn't so much a negative. They were just asking, hey, is there a thing that we can do? And then that's what I kind of told that individual, but Kathy had more of the contact. Kathy, do you have any comment to that question from Commissioner Hanson?
There were actually two types of concerns. One is to do flag lots and to shrink down the lot sizes. And the other one was that mostly they were concerned because of the neighbors doing what they're doing. And so there were those two concerns, the setting a precedence to split lots, and the other was the concern that the residents in the subdivision are doing apartments and additional buildings which aren't allowed.
That they're currently doing it or that they're wanting to do that?
Currently.
Currently doing it.
Okay. Can you guys hear me yet?
Yes.
Okay, Drew, this is Commissioner Musso. I have a question then. So are there CCNRs in the subdivision that would regulate anything like this? So does this conform to the CCNRs?
Are the days online or on the phone? Mr. and Mrs. Day, are you with us?
There's several people on, Drew, but they're not responding, so
Okay.
I assume none of them are
Okay.
it.
Well, just to answer, I'll tell you what I do know about that, Commissioner Musso, and if they're trying to get on, is that I asked them to make sure they searched their CCNRs, and they said they could not find anything in them that had a limited lot size. I said, I can't hold it up because, but I said, don't come here if, you know, your CCNRs have a limit, then it's not doing you any good.
Okay, and the other question is that my concern would be then, are we setting a precedent then for all of these other lots, or all these other 1 acre lots in the subdivision and create flag lots again? And I thought the city was kind of opposed to creating flag lots. So that's, you know, my only concern about it.
Well, I know downtown, right down here where this city office is that's kind of more encouraged than not discouraged if people are trying to do that to help get rid of some of these bigger lots. But again, the zoning down here is R16.
Right.
So, but we don't discourage. I mean, I've never been a discouragement of it. As a city, I don't know if Public Works, Brandon, you can pipe up if you guys have a feeling about that, but I don't think as a whole we've really said yay or nay. But Brandon, do you have any plus or minus on flags?
No, I don't think we have anything as long as they can meet the access and the utilities to them.
Okay.
I'd like to follow up on Commissioner Hanson's question, and Kathy mentioned apartments. Are people currently creating flag lots in this neighborhood and building apartments? Is that what I understood?
No, Kathy, I'll jump in for you.
Okay.
Well, the problem, Commissioner Hawley, is that we know, but until somebody makes a formal complaint and turns it in, I've gone after 2 people, but in another phase of this that have been turned in, but we know there are quite a few properties in the Pineview Estates area. I'm not doing this in a bad way, but you asked the question.
Right.
That have apartments built to them. Some of them have gotten they didn't even get a building permit from the city for any of it. Some of them got permits under pool houses or detached shops and then converted them into apartments.
Wow.
But again, our policy is here, unless a citizen complains, we're really not allowed to go out unless we're made aware of it in some manner other than us looking in backyards, which we don't do, to go after those kind of violations. But they are existing in this area.
But they're originally they weren't apartments. It was something that was turned into an apartment.
Or some of them were that way, but some of them, I think I've heard from neighbors that people just did it without even telling the city.
Wow.
And just built.
Wow.
Drew, what happens retroactively when the city becomes aware of that?
Well, then they can be cited. Now, you do know that we just passed a accessory dwelling unit law, but they would have to meet the criteria on it. And so they could, but again, if they're renting out to the general public, that they could not do. It could only be for immediate family members because that's what our regulations are. Now, if we found out that they had one and they wanted to make it compliant, I would recommend they do that. But again, it's for immediate family members only, but they could not rent them out generally right now. No, they would be in violation and be cited, for that.
this seems to be getting hairier as the more questions that we
I
have.
know.
I had one question just for clarification. I feel like I know the answer, but I want to make sure. If by chance this is approved by the Planning Commission, that doesn't the CCNR supersede what would happen in the future with this development, not the city? Like maybe there is something in the CCNRs where the days are just not interpreting it correctly, where their community interprets it different, saying that this is not allowed. If we by chance allow this or pass this or recommend it for approval, do the CCNR still stop them from doing that if it's interpreted different the way they're interpreting it?
Well, if it's found written that way, yes, it would.
Okay. So we're not the final say then in a community on this particular thing.
No, like I say, but their CCNRs right now would have to state that. And nobody who's come forward that I'm aware of is actually stating that.
Yeah.
I think they're just like caught off guard thinking, oh man, this could set, but again, if they're worried about precedent, there are two options. Change the zoning to minimum lot sizes, and they could do that, or go amend their CCNRs to minimum lot sizes. That could happen a whole lot faster.
Yeah. So
that's what I'd recommend. If they're worried about that, then they need the numbers, the percentage of whatever their CCNR state that they need, all of them are different. Some are 51% up to 75%. Whatever they say to go in an amendment, just get that many people to go in and amend it to say we have a minimum lot size. Now, they couldn't hold it against this one after it goes in, but for future ones, they could.
Yeah. The way I understand this is there's a homeowner that wants to subdivide their lot so a family member can build a home on it. And with that, I don't have an issue with it. But like I said, I'm starting to feel way more uncomfortable the more questions that are asked, because I'm wondering if there's something that's trying to be done against what we're thinking we're voting on, at least for myself.
Well, just again, I can only assure you that I asked him to thoroughly look through his CCNRs just for his sake. And he said he had found nothing with a minimum lot size.
Okay. So as right now on the record, it meets all of the city requirements, and that's what you're suggesting is if they want to change that in the future. But right now it meets everything.
That's what I'm,
Okay.
That's what's before you tonight. That to my full understanding. And again, I went back to try to find the zone change on it, and it was done long time ago, and there's really no conditions or anything on it whatsoever. I just found a 2-line vote on it, that they approved it as a PUD, the Pine View Estates as a PUD, and that was it. I couldn't even find any exhibits on it.
Okay.
It looks to me like it is used for large animals, or you can have a couple of large animals per lot. Is that going? I mean, that's going to have to for sure change on these two lots if it's approved.
Yeah, there's no animals on this one, but some folks do have them. You are right. I think when it was originally developed 25, 30 years ago, I think that was the intent, was to have small little ranchettes of an acre or bigger so they could have a horse or two on it.
And look, this Commissioner Hanson again, and looking at the overhead view that we're looking at, hypothetically, the lot right above it to the north could do the same thing, right? Have the same, like an access flag driveway there, and then do the same thing, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So if there's no more comment right now, I think we need to public comment. Your public comment on this?
There are multiple public comments, Jason. Let me read those for you. Sorry, Council or Commissioner. First comment is from Leslie Banks. My family and I moved to a subdivision over 25 years ago. The big lots are a part of what is unique to our subdivision. Although we have great neighbors, we have enjoyed having the distance between us and the next home. We have enjoyed big gardens, big areas for our families to play and spend time on and in our own yards. We've enjoyed the views of Pine Valley Mountain. It feels like other areas in the fields are getting overcrowded with too many homes and small lots. It is for this reason I would oppose subdividing our big acre lots. It would destroy the integrity of Pineview Estates Phase 1. I feel like others would want to divide if this goes through. We consciously made the decision to have big lots when we moved here. Please keep the big lots intact by not subdividing. The next comment is from Rex and Sue Wilkie to the Washington City Planning Commission. We asked the Planning Commission to deny the request to subdivide Lot 1 of Pineview Estates Phase 1. When we purchased our acre lot, we understood that this was a unique opportunity to own an acre in Washington Fields. We were one of the first to build in Pineview Estates subdivision, completing our home in June of 1990. In 1995, 2 property owners made the same request to subdivide their lots. Neighbors did not support the request. The request was denied by both the Planning Commission and the City Council. We asked that the request to subdivide Lot 1 be denied this time as well. Allowing one property owner to subdivide would set a precedent that would be difficult to reverse. Others may follow suit, which will undermine the original intent, open space, and property values of the 1-acre parcels in Phase 1. Thank you for the time and effort to review our comments. We appreciate all you do for the city. Sincerely. The next is Carol Thorpe. My husband and I purchased lots 7 and 8 in Pineview Estates Phase 1 in 1990. At that time, all of Pineview Estates was planned to be 1-acre parcels. We bought into a subdivision of 1-acre lots. The developer in later subdivisions kept reducing the size of the lots. We purchased in Phase 1 because we wanted to remain more rural neighborhood. We have since built houses on both lots and enjoy the quiet life that 1-acre parcels provide. I have lived in my house for 24 years. I do not understand how someone can come along 30 years later and decide to change the way a neighborhood is zoned. I believe that the precedent it would set would be devastating for our neighborhood. Our houses are 5 houses down the street. The zoning change will have a huge effect on our lives. We are stating that we believe the zoning change the days are requesting should be denied. From Dennis Banks. I have lived 25 years at our home that has the large lots in Pineview subdivision. We bought the lot because of its size and for the opportunities for animals, gardens, and having lots of space between us and our neighbors. I'm opposed to subdividing of any of the large lots in the first phase of this subdivision. To subdivide any of these lots will open up others who have these lots to do the same. Finding lots this size in any city is getting harder to do. These lots are unique to the area and breaking them up would be a shame. These lots also share a secondary irrigation system that is tied to the lots. What would happen if more lots are split up? The value of these homes could drop if we ruin what we have here. Soon people who have horses won't be allowed to have them if we are splitting these large lots. The protective covenants filed with the subdivision should protect those who bought the homes and lots to stop this kind of thing from happening. Please do not allow any of these large lots that have now been here for 25 plus years to be divided. Kelly and Maureen Houston. We oppose the division of Lot 1 of Pineview Estates Phase 1 into 2 lots and ask the Planning Commission to deny the request to divide this lot. The reason we purchased our lot and built our home in 1993 was the ability to have an acre property and to keep 2 large animals. This makes our neighborhood unique in most of Washington City. We feel that dividing the acre lots in Phase 1 would change the integrity of our open space, create a higher density neighborhood, and affect our property values. We had 2 neighbors also request a subdivision of their lots in Phase 1 in 1990s. Which was opposed by the neighborhood and denied by both the Planning Commission and the City Council. The dividing of just 1 lot would set a precedent for other lots to be divided and change the original intent of Pineview Estates Phase 1. We appreciate the opportunity to comment on changes to our neighborhood. Thank you for taking the time to consider our voices in this matter. Robert and Andrea Gonzalez. As residents of Pineview Estates, we are against the proposed subdivision of PVE Phase 1 amended and Lot 1 extended. The reasons we are against the subdividing of Lot 1 into 2 lots are as follows. A Washington City adopted a general plan January 11th, 2017, taken directly from the plan. Fundamental to the concept of a general plan is the notion that a city can be planned. Plan in this context refers to the process of gathering ideas and input from many sources and creating an overall general system of development that will bring about orderly growth. That is, development that avoids placing incompatible land uses next to each other. That will not place undue financial burdens on the city or particular neighborhood, and that still assures that adequate public services and amenities are in place to create a livable community. This description of the PVE amendment does not stipulate what the lot will be used for. According to the City Code of Washington City, passed December 10th, 2008, the following should be considered. Under Title 4, Chapter 4, 4-4-1, defined, offensive businesses. Within the meaning of this chapter shall include, but not be limited to, packaging houses, dairies, tanneries, canneries, renderies, junk or salvage yards, bone factories, slaughterhouses, butcher shops, soap factories, foundries, breweries, distilleries, livery, stables, blacksmith shops, or any other enterprise or establishment which creates excessive odors, fumes, smoke, gas, or noises. Any one of these businesses would negatively impact our neighborhood, resulting in nuisance. According to the C.C.OWC Title 5-3-3 nuisance defined, nuisance as defined in Utah Code annotated section 76-10-803, unlawful doing any act or omitting to perform any duty which is act or omission annoys, injures, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, or safety of 3 or more persons. We have more than 3 people annoyed or having our repose endangered by this proposed subdivision. C, if the plot is subdivided and a residence or business is to be constructed, the only access is a proposed driveway and a laundry drive. How will heavy equipment access the lot? No access is allowed on Sandia or 2000 South. If the vinyl is removed for temporary access, school children, vehicle, and pedestrian traffic will be impacted. Public safety will be an issue and concern. A school crosswalk is within 50 feet of the proposed lot 2. There are 2 flashing school safety lights warning traffic of the school zone and crosswalk within a few hundred feet of proposed lot 2. Safety issue. Surveyor map denotes PUE, no utilities on proposed lot 2. The additional traffic congestion and public safety concerns will impact the surrounding the neighborhood, depriving us the peaceful repose we all enjoy and cherish. Lastly, if the subdivision is approved, precedents will have been established what is to prevent all the residents of PVE from applying for subdivision of their own properties. Many residents reside in 1 to 2 acre lots. What environmental, water consumption, population density concerns will occur if all of us begin to construct homes, businesses, apartments, and rehab facilities on our properties? My wife and I live on 2 acres. 1 acre is zoned agricultural. We could build a dairy, hog farm, or slaughterhouse with the proper permits. We would never do something like that, which would affect our neighbors' quality of life, negatively impacting property values and destroying the quiet solitude and serenity that we all value and cherish. We appreciate the opportunity to voice our opposition to the proposed subdivision as the facts were presented above. We hope the City Council will vote no to this amendment. Respectfully, Robert and Andrea Gonzalez. Paul Christensen. This is in addition to the comment I made previously. I have lived at said residence for over 25 years, and as people come and go, they have no loyal to the CCNRs that were included with the parcel of land they bought. Money rules. Now that is not the case with Mr. Day, but it has been and will continue to be with others. Mr. Day says he only wants to divide the property so his son can build a house. I believe that, but there are other implications and they do not necessarily involve Mr. Day. There have already been others who have expressed if Mr. Day can do it, so if he does, I will do it also. They will want to subdivide their lots for the cash, not caring what happens to the neighborhood. Now, if the City Council has already made up their minds and allows this change, how will they justifiably stop the others from selling their properties and further destroying the neighborhood? Please allow the Day family to make changes as they see fit. Sorry, that was the next comment. David and Susan Anderson. Mark Murphy. This is a concern as it will affect all the lots in this area. Splitting lots will ruin the serenity and privacy and add more congestion to a single family dwelling area. There is also the water rights to each property. The acre lots are why we purchased and live in this community and should remain as when we purchased. David Burr. I feel that we ought to stay with the original agreements we made when we built/moved into Pineview Estates Phase 1, including single family dwellings on 1 acre lots. I understand how this would benefit any one of us in the short term, but believe that in the long term, our property values are worth our collective care. Dave and Deb Millward. We are in 100% approval of being able to build a detached home, casino, or mother-in-law unit on the property, but we don't really like the idea of splitting the lot because we love the feel of the 1 acre neighborhood. And I think this is duplicating. I'm so sorry. Let me make sure I'm not reading this again. I believe this is another comment. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. I think this comment got duplicated and I don't want to read it twice if I don't have to. I'm just going to read it just to make sure. This is the other one, I believe, from Paul Christensen. One second. Oh, yep, it is. Okay. This is a letter in regards to a change requested by Michael and Sandy Day wanting to divide their property in two, making it 2 home lot instead of 1 lot. Mr. Day has not made use of that property for years that he has lived there, and I believe it is over 25 years, only landscaping the front half of his property. My wife and I, Paul and Linda Christensen, are adamantly opposed to any changes to any of the properties located in Phase 1 of Pineview Estates. We moved here with the idea of living in a rural community far from city life, the traffic congestion associated with more condensed housing. Pineview Estates is unique in Washington City, offering one of the few places a person can own a whole acre of land and also in doing so be zoned for horses. There are several phases to Pineview Estates development, but Phase 1 is the only one with those qualifications. The other phases are reduced to ½ acre and not zoned for horses. Any change allowed would destroy our rural lifestyle that we sought. Any change allowed would set a precedent, allowing others to also divide their land because all of a sudden they have deemed it too large for them. I would suggest that Mr. and Mrs. Day solve their dilemma by purchasing a residence somewhere else that is more to their liking. If allowed, all of a sudden we would not be rural anymore. It is an easy solution and only involves one family moving and not affecting the others in the residence. Mr. Day is talking to him. He said that he had an offer from someone to purchase that property and set up a greenhouse. That would mean turning our neighborhood into a commercial enterprise. Mr. Day and his wife knew of the commitments when they purchased said property, and they should honor those commitments. When doing a search on the internet, I came across this article that says the commission has no right to supersede the CCNRs that were established at the time the housing development was initiated. Recently, we have had issues with projects and proposed projects that involve city regulations versus CCNR restrictions. Our board seems to think that the requirements in our CCNRs are unenforceable if the city has already approved the projects. I contend that the CCNRs must be met as well as city requirements, with the more restrictive, usually CCNRs, having the greater legal power, for lack of a better word. And then this is an answer, apparently, to that question. Your CCNRs and governing documents are private restrictions governing your community. By becoming an owner in the community, each member automatically becomes part of an agreement to live by those restrictions. Similarly, by moving into the municipality, each owner also becomes subject to the laws and ordinances of the city, in addition to other applicable county, state, and federal laws. The law of the CCNR is based on contract, while the law of the government authorities is public law. HOA members must heed both. If Mr. Day wants to change his property, which will affect the value of my property, he needs to get the CCNRs changed. Sincerely, Paul and Linda Christensen. And that is the last of my comments.
Good job, Tara. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Musso. Okay, so that was my question about the CCNRs initially, was to find out whether the CCNRs would allow the lot split for one. The second thing is, I guess the way around this is there a limit on the size of a casita that you can build? I mean, they could build a second home on that as long as it's for family members. The lot would still remain as one lot. It's going to be a bear to sell, you know, when the time comes, if you have a big casita on it or another house on it. But is there any restrictions, Drew, as to the size of a casita that somebody can build? Casitas, we typically think of, you know, smaller, but could they put a full-size home on that as a secondary residence onto that site?
No, with the new rules for a detached accessory dwelling unit, the max is 650 square feet.
Okay, that
So that would be a very small 2-bedroom, you know, probably unit. You could do 2 bedrooms, but they would be small rooms, small living room, small kitchen, small 1 bath. You know, you could pull it off, but that's the limit is 650.
Yeah, that answers the question that I had then. So.
Well, this Commissioner Hawley, that last comment, public hearing comment that Tara read from, I believe it was Paul Christensen, he referred to the CCNRs as if there was something in the CCNRs that would prohibit Mr. Day and Mrs. Day from splitting this lot. But Drew, you said you looked and looked and looked and you didn't see anything like that. Is that
Well,
correct?
city-wise, I looked, I didn't say,
Yeah.
I didn't read their CCNRs, but
Oh,
again,
okay.
I heard this several times, but nobody quoted. You know how people are good about quoting. I
Yeah.
don't think I heard, if you guys heard it, I'd like to have, but I heard people referring to that, but I think they were just referring that everybody knows they bought into 1 acre lots.
Yeah,
But I wish
I didn't hear.
nobody quoted their CCNR saying in this, on page such and such, section this,
Right, right,
says this. I
right.
think somebody probably would have done that if it's specific.
Right.
You know,
I
so
didn't
that-
hear that either. And that's where I was going. I didn't hear a specific, like you say, page 9, paragraph 14, didn't hear that. I'm wondering what happened on lot 3. The day's lot is lot 1, then lot 2, lot 3 going up the page. That's obviously 2 homes. Yep. I wonder how that, how long that.
That's probably the one that didn't get any permits that we were talking about earlier.
That's possible. All right.
It could be a large home or a large garage with a kind of casita too.
Yeah, I guess they got cars back there. That's
Uh,
true.
Commissioner
Well-
Shield brings up a good point, Drew. If they built a large garage with a 650 square foot living area, would that be acceptable on something like that?
It could, but I think the way we wrote it, I think we allow a detached garage to have a casita attached to it. I think
Yeah.
they could do that.
I tell you, after listening to all those comments, I feel like I just got beat up. Like I just went through my own HOA fight, and
You did.
it was a hardcore fight, knockdown, drag out fight. And what I learned from that was I really feel the pain of the residents and the people that have come out to speak against this. But what I learned through my own process was if the CCNRs don't specifically tell you you can't do something, then that owner has the right to attempt to do that, which it looks to me like that's what he's doing here. I haven't seen, like was mentioned already, I haven't seen anything specifically stating that they can't split these lots into smaller ones with their land at any point in time. Now, this goes back to the early 90s when it sounds like they were moving in. I can see how that might have been omitted, and the forecasting just wasn't there to thinking that might happen. In my opinion, I feel for the days, and I personally think that in court, they would be able to do what they're wanting to do. And I haven't seen anything otherwise for me.
I agree with Commissioner Hanson. If somebody had that, they should have come forward with it. Or if they're listening to this broadcast, they should have cited specific CCNR rules, regulations where this was not permitted. Otherwise, I think we have no other choice but to send it to the city council for approval.
Well, just to let you know and those listening, if they do have specific language,
Yeah,
if they got it to us between now and the city council meeting, I'd recommend they bring in a copy of those CCNRs and highlight that area that states a minimum. If I see that, then I don't mind making that part of, the council's information. If they have that, like I say, right from the county recorder's office, whatever is in those CCNRs now, they brought me that, then, I would love to see that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they're listening and they've got it, bring it.
As an example, the CCNRs in my community says that there can be no more than one single family residence on a lot, and it can't be subdivided. So it specifically states it. Now, ours were written much more recent than the early 90s, but that omits anyone from trying to do it. Our lots are not an acre, so it wouldn't matter. But that would be something I'd be looking to see, and I would absolutely adhere to the CCNRs, 100%.
Councilman Starkey, do you have a question? You've raised your hand. I'm pretty impressed.
To the extent that you guys have really kicked it around a lot already, but the reason we don't enforce CCNRs as a city because they are a private agreement between landowners in the same areas, as if everybody's entered into their own private contract, and then they want to change something about their lot, and so they come to the city and in some way want to have the city pass judgment on their private agreement between each other. And it's just not made that way. We don't come in and make a legal determination every time a set of CC&Rs come in as to whether they're appropriate, whether they've been appropriately adopted, whether the enforcement is appropriate. I like Drew's position that we would provide it as additional information, but that even imply that we're going to make a legal determination of these things. As Commissioner Hanson may agree, the interpretations on CC&Rs are all over the board, and there's a lot of claims of whether or not some of them are even enforceable. To have a city legislative body then step in to become the judicial system is problematic at best. I think it's a rabbit's hole that I don't know if we want to be chasing every single time somebody comes in for an amendment of something. Having said that, we pointed that out, that it's a private agreement, can be enforced between each other, between all the individuals, but for us to be, we shouldn't base our decisions on what those CC&Rs are, certainly to be consistent, nor do we want to, because that does give an additional tool that citizens have in their own neighborhoods to enforce their own particular standards. We set standards for a community on the entire basis of our whole community, our city. We set those standards. CC&Rs are very specific to particular neighborhoods in which people live and interact with each other. That's why we let them enforce those private agreements. To recognize them as indicating, well, there might be more to the story is fine, but we're not going to turn into the judicial branch of government for this. It's not fair to us. It's not fair to you guys. Even though maybe Commissioner Hanson has gotten such a bug for it now, he just wants to arbitrate everybody's, but I suspect that's probably not. So to the extent that's helpful, be aware of that. We struggle with it all the time, though.
This Commissioner Hawley, I remember from day one, Drew telling anybody who would listen, CC&Rs are not our affair. And so I agree with Council Starkey that for us to make a decision based on what somebody else's CC&Rs say, put us in a really awkward position. We are not the judge and the jury. All we can look at is what's legal and what isn't legal. And if these people got a beef, they need to take it to court themselves. City Council has no right, or the Planning Commission has no right to enforce or not CC&Rs.
This is Commissioner Hanson. I would absolutely support their CC&Rs if it can be shown to in the next phase, the next step of this going to City Council. If it can show in there actual language that would stop this, I would absolutely support that. My vote would be different. I think precedence was set with that lot 2 above this where it has happened in their community. And how and why and all that, we don't know the answer, how that ended up there. But if this was, just looking at this lot itself, if somebody in our city wanted to take an acre lot and subdivide it into a half an acre and there was no CC&Rs, I would not have a problem with that at all. If it was an 8,000 square foot lot that wanted to subdivide that, I might have an issue with that.
Right.
That's kind of where I sit with it.
So I have a question for Mr. Starkey. So we're technically amending a plat. And if I was to amend a plat if I was to bring a plat in here that's amended, it would have to be signed by each owner of the plat, right? Anyone that has interest in that plat. In this case, we're doing it by public hearing, but does that eliminate the opposition of the people that own part of the plat that you're amending?
Well, no, not at all. And I think Drew explained it. But to make all the ends tie on each other on that, he was right. There's 2 processes by state law. Either everyone approves it in writing ahead of time, which essentially means everyone agreed not to oppose it, or you do it by public hearing, which is much less complicated in terms of running people down as to who is the title owner of every single lot. But to that same extent, it means that if someone lodges an opposition to it, that's almost equivalent to saying they would not have signed the joining into it in the first place. So that does mean that opposition, by state law, the opposition to it by one of the neighbors was supposed to be taken to some extent and weighed to some extent. They don't say how it's weighed or what extent you put any weight on it, but otherwise state law wouldn't have been written that way.
Right. Well, I mean, that's my concern. I know that a number of those people do live in phase 1 of Pineview Estates.
Right. And you've got a number of comments from them. So I think you take that into consideration.
And they have interest in that plat that we are amending.
Sure.
So that's my concern. I agree with the HOA discussion or the CC&R discussion that we're not involved in the CC&Rs. My dilemma is this is a final plat that's being...
Separate argument. It's a separate argument if it's just a neighbor in the neighborhood who was given notice that they could oppose it if they wanted to. And we have some that indeed have opposed it, and they've stated why they've opposed it, which could be, it may be parallel with the private argument, the private legal argument of it's not consistent with our CC&Rs, but it's a separate argument in terms of just state law, in terms of amending a plat. Those people that received notice, we have some of them that said, I oppose it, and here's why. So you certainly, that's why Tara took her time to diligently read all of those oppositions so that you would be able to take those into consideration to some extent. And another odd twist thrown into this particular one is, before you were talking about, hey, if someone came in with a 1 acre lot and wanted to subdivide it, CC&Is or not, here's what we do to consider it. If it was in a zoning that said R1 acre, so in other words, you had to have an acre for a lot, you wouldn't have been allowed by law to separate that into 2 lots because you wouldn't have met the standards set. Not standards by CC&Rs, but the standards by our zoning ordinances.
Right.
A PUD adds this additional twist to zoning law because PUDs by nature aren't established set R18s, R16s, 1 acre lots. By nature, that's why they're PUDs, and there's some definitional standard that's set when a PUD is approved. And my guess is that it was just, there wasn't anything real clear that Drew could find under this PUD that set a standard of why each lot needs to stay the size it was. Otherwise, generally in a PUD, we know why the lots are the size they are.
So, Mr. Starkey, what you just said, so if there was some language in the PUD when it was originally set up that these similar to R1, although it's a PUD, then this would be moot. We wouldn't take any action here, right?
Well, it might be. All I can say is that it may have aided you in coming to a decision. Drew would typically, if this were a more recent PUD, just for example,
right,
then we had 20 units on 5 acres of land, but it was a PUD zone, and you originally had approved that PUD zoning, and therefore the subdivision based on so many units per acre, as opposed to it maybe being R16, which it may have been prior to the PUD. Drew would have separated out those elements of the PUD zone, which made it such that only 20 units should have stayed in that area. And he would have argued to you, well, when you approve this, you approved it with 20 units only because, they gave a park with it, or they gave a trail with it, and we gave them bonus densities with it. What I assume is because this is such an old PUD, Drew wasn't able to draw from a more specific PUD outline or PUD summary of what it was. So, and Drew would have to answer that.
No, he couldn't find anything on it, Jeff. Just a couple of lines PUD. That was it. So
That's why this was more difficult for you, because it's not as clear as it would be currently as the tool we use for PUD zones now.
right.
The tool is a much more defined tool that we can look at to see if we want to amend something on it. So I don't know if I'm that helpful or not, but just you're still touching on all the elements you need to touch to analyze it, including taking testimony or taking comments from part of the public, which you specifically sent notice to provide comment if they wanted to.
This one's a doozy. I'm going all over the place in my head because I don't know. It's tough.
Well, we're still a public hearing, so let's do something there.
Well, I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
It's Commissioner Hall.
Hanson.
Go ahead,
This
Jason.
is Commissioner Hanson. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Commissioner Hawley, second.
Motion by Commissioner Hanson, a second by Commissioner Hawley. In favor, Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Musso,
Aye.
Commissioner Shill,
Aye.
and Commissioner Smith is an aye as well. The public hearing is closed. Further discussion and or a motion from the commission on item 6A.
Okay, gentlemen, I was looking at an overhead on Pineview Estate, and it appears that there's a couple of homes where they're either extremely large garages or they already have accessory buildings that exceed probably 600 square feet. I'm trying to get into the parcel right now to see what the county actually is showing as far as what they have on the county records for it. But there's a couple of them there that have either huge outbuildings. Yeah, this one here, it says it's got a 2,100 square foot house and a 2,100 square foot garage, which
Nice.
yeah, that's all of our dreams, you know. But
What lot is that, Commissioner? Do you know?
I'm sorry, what?
What lot is that has 2 by 2,100?
It's W-PVE-3-50. It's Pineview Estate. The address is 588 West Mariposa.
Okay, so it's
So
not.
it's up on the north end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure what the zoning is on that one. It's a large lot, but it could have been a half-acre lot too. But I'm concerned about the precedent that it sets. You know,
I think that's all. I think we all are concerned with the precedents, and if we go do it for one, we're obligated to do it for the rest of them. But if we're going to do it, I would rather do it by vote than have these guys skirt around the laws and just build them without permits. That's baloney.
Well, the only consolation that I'm seeing in all this that we're talking about is what Drew threw out, that between now and the time it goes to the city council, which is 3 weeks, if those people, if any of them are hearing this, if they can find a copy of the CC&Rs where it specifically denies them being able to split their lot, then I would agree with it. But as Jeff said too, you know, the PUD is a different duck than if it was RE40 or RA1, you know, whatever the zoning specific is. So I don't know.
I'm just going to jump in because you made a comment, and so I want to throw a couple things for you commissioners to consider. This would actually go to city council next week because we try to push final plats to the following week and even amended ones if it's, you know, something simple, which this could be considered simple, but not in our discussion. So what I'd recommend, if you feel so, and you guys want to, again, keep it here, I'd recommend you might want to table it for 2 weeks, give these people who are listening a chance to bring you some evidence. And if they can't, then you make a decision 2 weeks from tonight, up or down to the city council. Because I know a lot of you are struggling with this right now. I can just see it on your faces. So that's what, I mean, you have those two choices. You can either do it tonight and say, well, we'll give them a week to get it in, or you guys, I don't encourage tabling, but sometimes I can see where this one's a real hardship for you and for the neighborhood. Give them 2 weeks to show you something. Doesn't mean they can go out. Now, again, if they go out and kind of skirt the issue and go change them right now, then I would say that's kind of inappropriate, but
they'd have to go through council to change the CCNRs and pay a lot of
no,
money.
they don't.
No.
They run down to the county recorder's office. They could do it by 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Wow.
But I think if this went to court, knowing this was already in before that, I could see where maybe the court would see on, but again, I'm not going to say how the court would see, but you can almost, if I'm a judge and I'm looking at it, I'm saying, yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, my last question would be, Drew, if they did bring to this commission a copy of CCNRs that expressly prohibits the days from splitting this lot, we don't have any jurisdiction over CCNRs. Why would that influence us?
Well, because what you're trying to do is if they're going to do that, they're going to take the neighbor to court and it's just done. So you just save a trip from everybody going to court. That's the only reason you might do that. If you felt like it. You're just sitting there going, this is going to end up there anyway. So
yeah,
why would we muddy the water? Then you would just recommend denial. If their CCNRs say that and that's what they bought into, then you could say, based on that, we really don't feel like doing it. Now, you don't have to. It's like Jeff told you, Council Starkey said, because we're not in the CCNR business, but I know councils have had CCNR language brought to them and they've denied things because of it. They're just saying, why do we want to have people end up in court when we know it says right here you shouldn't do that?
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
This is Commissioner Hanson. Do you mind telling us, in our staff report, we got a recommendation that this is approved and passed or sent on for approval. Can you just maybe tell us a little bit why you believe that?
Why I believe you should, that I recommended approval?
Yeah.
Well, because I asked the days specifically go through their CCNRs, and look for it. And he told me he went through them with the fine tooth comb and didn't find anything that had a minimum lot size in it. So I thought, well, you're the one who's going to get taken into court if it is in there,
And none of those objectors could point to specific language in the CCNRs. So
well, they referenced it. They referenced it well, and like I say, if it's in there, then I'd really like to see it.
Yep.
Yeah, but we weren't asking them specifically to reference it at this point. So that's where I feel that it's not going to hurt it to table it for 2 weeks. Let them come up with, if they're there, then they can come up with it and prove it. But I don't think nothing's going to happen within the next 2 weeks anyway with doing this thing. So why not table it and why not let them put the proof of burden on them? And then if they can't prove it, then we go ahead and do it.
I think we table it because what we're doing is circumventing city council having to do exactly what we're doing in a week from now. You know what I mean? Like if this comes to them, I would think they would follow the same lines and same questioning. Let's figure it out. I say we table it. Let's figure it out in the next 2 weeks if they can bring something to us, and then city council doesn't have to worry about that. I think that's what part of our role, what it is to vet this stuff out. So I'd like more information.
So are you in favor of tabling it then, Commissioner?
I am, because I want to side with the people voicing opposition, but legally I don't think that would stand up in court. I think that the gentleman would have the ability to go to court and win if he wanted to do that, if it's not in there.
Well, I agree with you, and I agree with Commissioner Musso, and that's three of us that agree that this should probably be tabled. So, Brian, why don't you make a motion if nobody has an objection?
I make a motion that we table this, and I don't have all the correct verbiage in front of me right at the moment, and I apologize, gentlemen. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it really quick.
It's 6A. Plat amendment.
That we table the plat amendment 6A, and for 2 weeks, allowing the people in opposition adequate time to provide documentation that the CCNRs state such that the lots cannot be subdivided. And that was,
Commissioner Hawley, I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Musso,
aye.
Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Shield.
Aye.
I will vote aye as well. So motion passes to table. Motion to table passes unanimously. Item 6A will be heard in 2 weeks. Will be read
September 16th.
on September 16th. Moving on.
Can we make a note to just make sure the infrastructure will allow additional homes in that area?
It will.
Commissioner Shield, that's something I was going to bring up in 2 weeks because they did say something about an irrigation system being an issue and things like that. So yeah, I have a note of it here to talk about that.
Well, I'm going to point out there's a difference here. They have their own water thing, but again, this lot would just be afforded whatever it had before. It's like a water right. Doesn't matter if you had 10 things on it, you only get X amount of water for that lot.
So Drew,
They're trying to use that as a thing, but they're not going to get any more water. It's based on so many water users, and that's it.
So Drew, if all 1 acre lots subdivided in the next year, that you're saying that's not going to make a difference on the water and things like that?
Well, they only have, I don't know what their water system is, but I mean, I've been around water systems. It's just based on, we all broke this up equally this much. So that means if I split my lot, I only get the half the water I did before, and the other guy gets the other half.
Okay.
It's pretty simple stuff.
All right.
Moving on.
Sewer lines and everything are compatible.
Yeah, for a single lot for sure.
Now Brandon's online. Brandon, you don't have any issue with city utilities, do you?
No, we don't. Everything should be able to be handled with that.
Okay, it's up to the people then.
Item 6B is a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to City Council for Wilbur Acres Plat Third Amendment located at 960 South, 1900 East. The purpose of this amendment is to amend Lot 2 to change common property in the rear. The applicant is Fred and Mary Buska.
Thank you. As stated, the applicant's requesting approval of the amended final plat for the Wilbur Acres, and this will be number 3 amendment. The reason for this amendment request is simply to turn limited common area associated with lot number 2 up in the north. Well, I guess I'm not going to give it. It would be northwest up there. You can see in the upper right-hand corner of your screen into private ownership for that lot number. This kind of change occurred on all the other lots within this specific subdivision at a previous time. Lot 2 was not part of those previous amendments, but is now taking advantage of turning its limited common area into private ownership. Staff has reviewed the proposed amended final plat and finds it conforms to the heavy industrial zoning and also to the subdivision and zoning ordinance of the city. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the amended final plat for the Wilbur Acres amended number 3 subdivision, changing the limited common area of lot number 2 into private ownership onto the city council, and that's based on your findings and the conditions in your report. Again, they're the standard ones for a final plat. Be glad to answer any questions you might have on this proposal.
Questions for staff?
Did you say all of the other lots had already been converted to private ownership?
Yeah, I'm just going to show you the specific area. I'm going to highlight it in red. This used to be, all the other ones, for some reason, when they did this originally, had common area and then limited common area for each lot to use.
Huh.
And you can see the buildings were, slashed in the private ownership. And then in this area they had, it's not there anymore because it's the last one to do it, but there was another symbol. I think they cross-hashed it and call it limited common area. And everybody else came in and changed it to private ownership because it was their limited common means it's what you have kind of private ownership too, but it's still in the common area. But the previous owner, whatever the circumstances, I can't remember, it's been years, that lot number 2 didn't go in on the change then. And now they're coming back, and you can see lot 1, you see the existing building here. You know, and all these other ones, these are the existing buildings where I'm putting X's, and then the area, you know, that they basically had turned into their own private ownership over previous amendments. So these ones are now wanting to take advantage of this area up here, you know, that I'm highlighting out, and turning it into private ownership like everybody else has kind of done. I hope that answers your question. There is still some common area in this. You can see the white areas and the parking. Parking areas should be left common. And then other parts of the subdivision are in common area for certain reasons.
Did I hear you say they're literally the last one that has not done this?
Yes, you can. I'll zoom out. Let me just get rid of my colors because they'll change my mouse. And then I'll zoom in where you can see just about all the lots. But you can see everybody, you know, the dash line is where the buildings are. And so lot 5, this is their private ownership. Lot 4, private, and this is land. You know, and lot 1, I mean 8 over here shows the building and then the land. Lot 3 and lot 1 over here. And they are the last one. There's no more lots in this subdivision, as you can see.
This is residential, right?
No, this is industrial.
Right, okay, okay.
Yeah, there's businesses out here.
Yeah, 1900.
Do you have an aerial of that?
Yes, I do. Let me find it for you, though. Just give me a second to zoom out so I don't get us all too car sick as I head over there.
This eliminates all limited common area then.
Yes. So here, I'm sorry, it's changed a little bit from your detail just because it's true north and south, east and west. So you can see this is, I'm going to head up and get my annotation pencil. And so it's lot 2 right here is the one in question. And then you can see, again, you can see where it's all paved, et cetera, and all this area. So it was limited common, now they're making it private.
So will that change their tax structure, Drew?
I don't know. I probably think that it would not, because I think the county looks at limited common area probably as almost, because they're the ones who can use it. When it's limited common tied to your property, it's pretty much for your use and not others.
Yeah, okay.
But why they went to do limited in this whole thing anyway was, I was surprised. There must have been a reason why they did it. But this is kind of the area we're referencing, this blue area.
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't make any sense to me. I know a little bit about common areas and limited use and all that. That just doesn't make any sense, but it was a long time ago.
Do they have separate parcel numbers, or is that just one big happy parcel number?
No, it's a subdivision, so that's why. So it would be Wilbur 8, you know, like I say, if I was to make one up, it'd probably be W-WA something -2 would be this parcel ID number on it, more than likely.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, there's a parcel ID right now you can see.
Yeah, it's only 11 tenths.
So you can see it's just the blue box right now. They're trying to get the rest of this will then be recorded. So that blue box around it will then grow to that parking area and stuff down in this area.
Yeah, all they have now is the footprint.
Yeah, see how the blue box goes around all this one because they turn theirs into it?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're doing here.
Are those vacant lots, or are those blue boxes also 6 and 7? They're probably
let me go back and find out what.
They're not sold yet.
Yeah, they're probably not.
It says landscaped area septic field, so on 6 anyway.
Yeah, but it is a separate piece. You can see it
Yeah, it
has its
is.
own tax ID.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Okay.
This is a public hearing. If there's no more comment from the staff, I'd look to see if there's any comments from the public.
There are no public comments on this item.
Commissioner Hawley, I make a motion, we close public hearing.
Commissioner Hanson, I second.
I have a motion and a second in favor. Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Musso,
Aye.
Commissioner Shield.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith is an aye. We have Commissioner Fitz has made the meeting. Welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome, Van.
Thanks.
Man, you missed all the heavy lifting.
But we did table it for you.
There's plenty more. There's plenty more to come, Van.
Further discussion on item 6B or motion.
I have no further. If nobody else does, this is Commissioner Hanson. I'd make a motion that we approve the amended final plat for the Wilbur Acres number 3, located at approximately 960 South, 1900 East, according to the findings and stipulations on the staff report.
You're recommending approval onto the council, right, Commissioner?
I did not read it that way, but I can change my recommendation here.
Yeah, please do, because I think it sounded like you guys were approving. I'm not trying to be mean, but you know what I mean.
No, I read it wrong. This is Commissioner Hanson. I make a motion on item 6B that we recommend for approval to City Council, the Wilbur Acres number 3, located approximately 960 South, 1900 East, according to the findings and conditions in the staff report, if any listed.
And that would be for lot 2, Commissioner Hanson. Wilbur Acres 3, lot 2.
Okay. Correct.
Motion by Commissioner Hanson,
It's Commissioner Hawley, I second that.
second by Commissioner Hawley. I'll have Commissioner Shield finish this one up, Van, and then I'll have you do from here on out, okay?
Sounds good.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Musso,
Aye.
Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
and Commissioner Smith's an aye as well. So, Commissioner Shield, you're back to the alternate, but please make comment as you see fit. I just won't be voting after this. Item 7A was asked to be removed from this agenda, so we are removing that. Do we still have to do a public hearing? Staff, Drew?
Pardon me? Sorry.
Do we still need to do a public hearing on 7A or?
No, you're just going to make note that because we had to keep it up, just letting everybody know it's been pulled, but we'll be come back at a later date and we will renotice on that.
So 7A has been pulled, but it will be renoticed at the time that it is resubmitted or brought back on to make those comments. Moving on to 7B, this is consideration and recommendation to City Council for the boulders at Coral Canyon, preliminary plat, located at approximately 3950 East Telegraph. The applicant is Cole West.
Hey, thank you. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat as stated for the boulders at Coral Canyon. The applicant is proposing 93 lots and the area of coverage is 19.851 acres. The zoning designation at this particular spot is the Planned Community Development or the Coral Canyon PCD. The surrounding zoning is PCD to the north, to the east, to the west, and the south. Again, all part of the Coral Canyon PCD. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to location for the most part, and we'll talk about those in your conditions. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions on this preliminary plat as outlined. So staff then recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the preliminary plat for the boulders at Coral Canyon onto the City Council based on the findings and subject to the conditions. Now, this is the one you got your updated conditions on. And I just want to note that we modified condition number 13 and 14. So if you want to go to that, basically in 13, I added the sentence, this is at Public Works request. And I'll just read this out loud, the whole new condition. Number 13, the developer shall install curb, gutter, sidewalk, and asphalt improvements on Telegraph Road as per page 6, section I of the development agreement for Coral Canyon. The city has met their obligations and responsibilities as it relates to the development agreement for this particular roadway, which roadway is Telegraph. The preliminary plat does not match the development agreement for Telegraph Road. So that's what we wanted to modify that. Number 14 is modified and states this: a traffic study will be needed to determine impacts and if deceleration lanes, acceleration lanes, center turn lanes, and additional asphalt width on the north side of Telegraph Road are needed. Please refer to the Washington City Transportation Master Plan, page 40, section 5.5, traffic impact study 5.5.1. So again, those two got modified from the original report that went out to you, and we just wanted to make note of that. So with that, we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have for staff, and then any questions you might have for the applicant, who I'm sure is still online. That would be Drake, but go ahead and ask me first, and then we'll turn time over to him if you need so.
I have a question. Where on Telegraph is this, Drew? Is this before the landfill turnoff or past that? Where on Telegraph?
I'm going to try to give you a good rough guesstimation.
Good man.
I'll be really, really close. I may not be exact, but I'm a good horseshoe thrower.
It looks like it's over by that ridge.
It is. It's in between the ridge and our power plant. So I'm going to keep out here at the 10,000 foot view. You can almost see right here.
Right there.
Yeah. Like I say, you can pretty much see it right in here.
Yep.
Because it matches up with your map. Okay, so you can see the pond to the golf course right over here.
Yeah.
And then our sub power stations over here. And water treatment system over here.
And isn't Razor Ridge just across from the water treatment?
Yes, Razor Ridge, you can see just part of it right there.
Right, okay. Okay, I'm with you.
Wow. It's about 100 yards south or to the west of Razor Ridge.
Yeah,
Wow.
like I say, that right here is the bottom end of Razor Ridge.
They're going to move a lot of dirt.
Not really, but I mean, they will. And Drake might be able to tell you how much, but unless you have any other questions for me.
No, I just wanted to know where it was.
So Drew, I have a question.
Okay.
So if they do this side, this is Commissioner Musso, excuse me. If they do this side of Telegraph, then who is going to build out the other side of Telegraph Road? Is that going to be their responsibility also? Because that's where the golf course is. You're not going to put any houses on that side of Telegraph, I can't imagine, are you? Is that area big enough?
I don't think that the master plan of Coral Canyon has anything designated for right here.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's
so
just still open space for here and
so
here.
Are we going to be going from the 4 lanes down to the 3 lanes out to the 2 lanes, you know, that kind of stuff again? Or is it going to be a finished road all the way through that area?
Brandon, step in on that, please.
We're going to let the traffic study come back and tell us what we need, what's warranted. That's why I called that out in the conditions.
Okay, so that was what that was referring to.
That's exactly right, because I did mention the north half would have to be additional asphalt would be needed for the build out of the decel, XL, center turn lanes, and north half of the asphalt road would be built.
Okay. Now, this is Commissioner Musso again. I went out and walked this property this afternoon. I had a couple of questions. One is that there's no per se open space inside of where the houses are located. You know, your open space is all along the periphery, and that drops down into a wash basically before you get to that steep hillside on the other side. So their open space there is just going to be desert going down into the wash. And is there going to be anything usable as far as park or recreation area for that particular development? Or is it just going to be, you know, this wasteland essentially that they're going to put a bike path through apparently? Is that what they're considering their amenity package for that subdivision?
Well, okay, I'm going to have Drake address that. Are there any other questions for Brandon or I?
No, I have none.
Because Commissioner Musso, I just kind of zoomed in on this amenity, and I'm going to have Drake explain what that is. There are a few other little open space areas. You know, there's one up here by the freeway that says OS1. You can see I'm kind of trying to circle around it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as I scroll up here again at the other end, you see OS number 4. And so I'll have Drake address what they're going to be putting in there. You have this OS number 3 right here on the roadway.
Right.
And then you have this one down here that says amenity. And so we'll have them, and then the piece across the street where the C is. Those are both kind of open space areas. So Drake, why don't you pop in and tell us what the plan is there?
You bet. Thank you, Drew. Commissioner Musso, that's a great question. Appreciate you raising that. I think Drew did a great job outlining where our open space is within kind of the lotted area. I think your main concern was, hey, is there any open space kind of adjacent or among the lots? And there certainly is. There's ample open space, as Drew just pointed out as he reviewed our plat there. One of the probably things that was difficult to see is in that letter C cross section, kind of at the bottom of the screen right there. That letter C label covers the OS, I think that's OS2 area there that will be open space. And then most importantly, I think Drew's circling it as we speak. We have an amenity area in that lower section of the plat map, and that will include a water amenity that will serve these 93 lots. And so I think CoWest is known very well for the amenities that we put in our developments, and this will certainly be part of the program that we do with our amenities. The trail there that you can see on the east side, so to speak, will be part of the Coral Canyon Trail System that I think if you talk to any resident in Coral Canyon, one of the things that they'll mention that they love as part of the development is an amazing trail system that's built by us, and then we dedicate it to the city, becomes a public trail. The intent is for that trail to reach all the way down as this development progresses along Telegraph, all the way down to the existing trail that dead ends there by Landfill Road. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's kind of the extension of the trail that goes past Hellhole and goes and wraps up around towards the landfill, but it just dead ends now because there's no development there. Yeah, the Cottonwood Wash there. Anyway, so we feel like that trail is very well suited. You mentioned the term wasteland, and our perspective is that's actually beautiful desert and not wasteland, and the Razor Ridge behind it is majestic. So in addition to improved open space and amenity inside the kind of the lot area, we're surrounded by some beautiful open space, and then the trail will cross through that open space.
Okay, so my next question is then the type of homes that you're going to build in there, are they going to be freestanding single family?
Yeah, these are individually platted lots, individual single-family detached lots, correct?
So they'll be similar to 14 Fairway or up in the last sections up in Barrio. So they'll be individual homes.
They'll be
The
single
lots
family.
aren't real wide.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
No,
lots
they're
aren't real
very
wide, 14.
small.
Yeah, they're quite small. Yes.
I didn't mean to jump in on you there, Brian, but those are small lots. Are those going to be 2-story homes? What are we doing there?
It's likely that they could be 2-story homes, although we haven't settled on the actual floor plan, but there's a likelihood they could be 2-story homes, yes.
Resource to the community. At the new Makerspace, Washington County Library Director Joel Tucker said that people can come and learn the basics of how to make their own movies or podcast.
We're opening a
Other questions for Drew? Or for Drake, sorry. Drew or Drake?
So Drake, with a 40-foot wide lot, are you going to go to a zero lot line on one side and then 10 foot on the other? Or are you going to try to go 5 and 5 on both sides? What do you think you're trying to try to do with those? I'm just trying to picture in my mind's eye what kind of homes that we're going to have on those, because if you go with a 30-foot wide pad, 20 feet of its garage, you're only going to have 10 feet for the door and for whatever else is on the other side of you. So I'm just trying to envision in my mind's eye.
Yeah, that was another great question, Commissioner Musso. Thank you. We'd like, if at all possible, to go with a 5 and 5 on the side yard setbacks, although that's still something that would need to be approved through through zoning. We talked to Drew about that, but that would be something that would be coming in the future. But yeah, no, you're right. As far as the building pad itself would likely be a 30-foot wide structure, and likely 2-story product there.
So, and I'm not going to compare you to Salisbury in any way, shape, or form, but it's going to be something like possibly what they have down in Desert Edge, where they have those 2-story ones that they're building. It's about 1,800 square feet on a small pad, a very small pad.
Yeah.
I mean, are you familiar with that product?
Yes, I am. I think what I'm familiar with is Salisbury at Desert Bluff within the Desert Canyon Master Plan community down by the airport there. And you hit the right on the head, Commissioner Musso. That's a very good kind of sample of what could come onto these lots. Yes.
Okay.
This
That's
Commissioner Hawley, that's what I'm seeing, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Drew. So one concern, I'm not real good at reading the topo here, but one concern I had about our trail system is, at Hellhole Canyon, how it just kind of goes down into that canyon, kind of seems like very steep. I just had a family friend die because of an accident there at Hellhole Canyon. So I was just wondering where this trail, I guess, kind of starts. Can someone tell me how steep that is?
It's certainly not.
Line is what, 10 feet?
Okay.
Are they at 10?
Well, and I just want to kind of assure you that it's certainly not to the slope that Hellhole is. This trail kind of along that slope behind Jurassic Court there, that cul-de-sac that you see. Mm-hmm. So that slope's going down to the wash. That's kind of along. Well, you can see the blue arrows. Those are the drainage directional arrows, and so it slopes down towards that dry wash, and then the topo goes back up to the Razor Ridge, to that Jurassic-looking, really cool boulder ridge there. And so this trail is intended to just follow kind of near the toe of that slope, and kind of meander from the toe, kind of mid slope. But the grades, as far as the steepness of Hellhole, really aren't comparable.
Okay.
Any other questions for Drake? Drake, did you get the modified 13 and 14, and you're aware of that?
I didn't see them word for word, but Brandon, and we have been visiting with Brandon and are very aware of that as far as the condition that the city would like to place on that. And so, yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. We have some concern with the practicality of curb gutter and sidewalk along such a busy thoroughfare of Telegraph. This is something that we will likely raise with the city council when we get to that stage. We just don't feel it's a practical or a safe place for curb gutter or sidewalk. We don't want our residents walking along Telegraph without, Commissioner Musso was there, it sounds like today, and he can weigh in with his own opinion, but this is a very fast moving roadway. And our hope is we can make a case that the sidewalk, that people use the sidewalks internal to our subdivision there. But that's kind of a long answer to your question, Chair. We've been talking to Brandon, and yes, we're very aware of that condition, and we're supportive of the traffic impact study, and will conform to what the traffic impact study requires as it relates to center turn lane, decel, acel lanes, widening of Telegraph, et cetera. I mean, we fully recognize if we have this development here, people coming in from the north or, from the Telegraph SR9 intersection, if they're coming in to go home, they'll need to make a left-hand into these two access points. And we certainly can't have them stopping in a travel lane on Telegraph. So there needs to be accommodation made for a center turn lane there. Most likely, I'm sure that will be part of the traffic impact study.
Right. I just had a question. You talked about your setbacks. At what point are you planning on submitting that? I mean, typically, don't we submit that preliminary plat?
Well, we were intending to submit that later after preliminary plat was approved. We weren't aware that was part of the preliminary plat. So our intent was to submit it later to get that application in later.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I guess it would fall under the PCD setbacks at this point unless you make a change. So I guess that's the only thing that I would be concerned about at all.
Yeah, we share that and agree. Right now, it would fall under what is established in the PCD.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Drake or for Drew? If not, this is a public hearing. Do we have any public comment on it?
There are no public comments on this item.
Great. Well, since that's the case, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Commissioner Hanson, so moved.
Commissioner Hawley, I second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hanson, second by Commissioner Hawley. In favor, Commissioner Hanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley?
Aye.
Commissioner Sunfu? You're on mute.
Sorry. Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Musso?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Commissioner Smith is an aye. So motion passes unanimously to close the public hearing. Further discussion on the boulders at Coral Canyon and or a motion. I'll jump at once.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to City Council the approval with conditions for the preliminary plat approval for Boulders at Coral Canyon subdivision located at approximately 3950 East Telegraph, applicant Coal West.
I second
With the
that.
findings in,
With the findings and conditions?
with the findings and conditions as so outlined, including those that were added today.
I second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Musso and a second by Commissioner Fitzpatrick. In favor, Commissioner Musso,
Aye.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith's an aye as well. Motion passes unanimously. Item 8A, this is a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to City Council. Zone change request Z-20-14 to amend the PCD plan community development. Specifically 3 items: amend the plan single family attached townhomes to single family detached patio residential, amend a portion of the plan single family detached residential to a single family detached patio residential in phase 6, and amend language governing commercial use and commercial C-line design are to C2 services commercial, service commercial, and the applicant is Coal West.
Thank you. As stated, and we'll get to each one of those kind of specifically, hopefully a little bit more, and allow the applicant to join in as well after we get to that point. But the request is for the approval to amend portions of the Brio PCD as found in the conceptual site plan with associated densities table, the circulation plan and land use summary directly for the commercial parcels. More specifically, changes in section 2, the conceptual site plan, exhibit 2.1, which is the one I have on your screen. I'm also going to refer to, they didn't give me a circulation one specifically, but I'll show you the minor area that's going to change in that on this proposal. Certain areas have been revised as follows. The proposal is requesting to amend the circulation plan, and I'm just going to circle that particular area. This is the simplest of everything, and it's really not even part of the proposal, but I threw it in there because it needed to be anyway. This particular area used to have a roadway that tied onto Washington Parkway. As you can see, we are changing that to have it as a dead end for Rialto Parkway, which used to, again, the old one came all the way to Washington Parkway. Because of the busyness of the parkway, because of the bend on the parkway and the closest to Main Street, the developer and staff, the city, felt it would be appropriate to close that off right there. Just because of the hazards that it could cause, because when the parkway builds out, it's not just going to be the simple 2-lane road you see now, the brand new road. It's a big 120-foot wide with medians, et cetera, in it. And it would just be a hard sell right here to get people crossing that. So we want to eliminate that. So that's the easy part of this amendment right there. So that's the first one, changing that. The proposal also, going on to that indent number 2, is requesting to reassign the SFA, which stands for single family attached townhomes area, currently shown in the northeast portion of the project. So this particular color you see down here, this kind of a pinkish mauve color, currently exists right through here. And that product is in no way selling because it's got stairs in it. So they want to eliminate that and go with a new patio detached unit that'll go in here. And that's this new proposal that'll match up with, actually it's a new product is the best way to say it. So this particular red area is proposing that new, what they refer to as the SFD, which is the single family detached patio residential -3. And we'll have Drake explain what that is in a minute. That's one of the proposed changes. The next one is over, and I'm going to change my color here. And this particular area is being moved to go from the single family detached, kind of the home you see throughout Brio over here in this area, to more of the original patio homes that are in this area down here. So I'm just gonna kind of draw your attention to where my blue star is, and they want to take that same development and put it up in this area. And the reason is because, again, the busyness of Washington Parkway, they don't want to have as many of their bigger, more custom homes, and they're not really custom, but it's their more average, normal homes up there. They're going to go with the smaller patio home to take the impact off of more of their custom kind of residential area here. And so that's that third indent. The proposal is also wanting to reassign the townhome area, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave these colors and move my map and get my pencil again. And there was townhomes designed right here, like the ones you see here, but they're going to the new patio -3 design in this area, which is that amendment you did for them with 3G, if you remember a couple weeks ago. And that's what this area is wanting to be reassigned to take in, is that same design that they're putting up here as well. So that's the changes within the map, the site plan. So I did want to point out in my report, changing of the densities. And so let me just kind of get to that. My tongue is slipping all over. I'm going to pull down the legend box up here and zoom in a little bit for you. And so right now we'll be talking about the densities. And again, this is the new, let me get my pencil again. This is the new product right here. And that's the one that you can see right here and then over by the clubhouse. And they want to develop all that area equals 9.5 acres. And within that area, all of it, they're going to do 69 dwelling units of this new product. And that gives you a dwelling unit per acre ratio of 7.2. So, but let me start my report and then I'll refer to that as we go. So if you get back on this page 2, about halfway down, I just start talking about acreage and densities if you want to follow along. So the new proposal, single family detached residential, which is currently this top one up here, and I'll change colors so you can follow with me. We'll do this one in red. The change is currently it is at 93.1 acres. They're going to drop it down to 84. And the density was 315 units. And the new proposal is 289. So it's gone from 315 units. And again, that's basically these particular home types over here. Drop from 315 down to 289. Then the next, the single family detached patio home. Let me get a different color. Follow with me with the green. Is that currently the acreage is 33.5 and the density of 203 units. Their new proposal is 41.7 acres. So that went up, you can see about 8 acres. And the units went from 203 to 227. So that's an increase of, again, 24 units of this type of home. And again, that's in this particular color right here on your map of the type of usage within the development. Then I've already referenced the single family patio residential 3, which is a new product. And it currently does not exist. So the proposal addition, as I stated, is 9.5 acres with 69 units for 7.2. And that's going to again replace the townhomes up here in the northeast portion of the development. So that's just to give you the overall changes there. Now, currently their site plan shows 856 units. I'm going to circle that here in green. But they're now proposing 805. So that overall count has gone down somewhat, but I will make note here because you'll know in my report, I kind of referenced these two areas that I'm putting stars next to. Okay, the notes, and I'm just going to read them for you. The note says density may be moved from one land use to another land use as long as the overall density does not exceed 856 units, which is the current approval. Then the other part of this is these have both been added, these two areas. Dwelling land use acreages are approximate and may change depending on market conditions as long as the overall density does not exceed 856 total units. Now, as staff, I'm okay with one of these notes, not so okay with the other one, but that's up to you as planning commissioners. I'm not so much in favor of this one, but I am okay with this one. That's why I'll put an X and a check. And just for purposes, I don't mind this, but I don't like to be caught off with densities being moved per random like that. But I don't mind about approximate acreages being adjusted plus or minus. And then you can have the densities can go with those anyway. I just don't like this one up top for a few reasons. So with that, also moving down, there's a change in section 3.1A of the design guideline standards section to the PCD project plan and proposing the language of the land use summary. I don't know if I have an exhibit or not, but just follow with me. You can read in your reports along with me. But right now, the land use summary, specifically for commercial, the current language states this: the commercial designated parcels at BREO categories: 1, clinic or other similar use; 2, assisted living and or senior apartments or similar use. The city ordinance in effect at the time the individual parcel development plan is approved will apply and set parking standards for the BREO project. Now, I'm going to get out of these colors. I'm going to scroll down and show you the area that we're basically talking about.
An orange area.
This orange area was always designated from the beginning to be an assisted living type of development. They actually, when BREO was starting out, as I remember, I'll stay with the green. And I'm just gonna, well, I gotta get my pencil. The plan was in the beginning days of BREO that this was gonna be a development for assisted living. And I think they even were going into contracts with a company and it all fell apart. So that's why they went over here and designated their commercial areas, because they thought it'd be great if we have an assisted living here that we allow a clinic or something to do with that over in the commercial pad. So that's why it was always designated that could just be a nice clinic area. Well, of course, this never panned out, the assisted living. Now it's a 55 and older apartment complex under construction. So the need for specifically a clinic went way down. So it would be hard for them to go out and find some client that would fit that category. And why would they go there? You know, it would be hard sell without that assisted living across the street. So I can see why they want to change it to this new proposal that you see in your report. So now they would like that commercial area in the land use summary to read as such: the commercial designated parcel at BREO will include such uses as retail sales in conjunction with the city's C2 zoning district. Administrative and professional, mixed uses, horizontal or vertical, along with hobby caves may be appropriate. Now, I'm going to give you my little opinion on that. I don't mind most of that definition, and it's up to the Planning Commission, but I'm not sure what they are going after when they specifically talk horizontal and vertical, along with hobby caves may be appropriate. Now, I will tell you, if you're familiar with Sun River, there is a part of Sun River that they offered a storage unit area, and those storage units have turned into what they call a man cave or hobby caves. That's a new popular product out there. And I think they may be going after that, but I'm not, it's up to the Planning Commission, City Council if they think that would be appropriate in this particular area. If it was somewhere buried more within the development, I might not have such a heartache, but where it is, I might have a little heartache just because of location. So with all that said, I'm going to kind of finish up here. Staff has reviewed the proposed changes and the amendment, and staff supports most of the proposal. The two items of concern in the new language for the commercial summary, as I just stated, have to do with that horizontal vertical. I'd like more information on that along with hobby caves. I just not sure about that. Staff feels that due to location on this commercial designated area, that certain mixed uses and especially hobby caves might not be harmonious. Also, the language added to the conceptual site plan, and let me get my thing. Again, I told you I'd come back to this in full circle. These two notes up here. I'm fine with the dwelling land use acreage, not so fine with the note up here about the densities may be moved from one land use thing to another one just arbitrarily by the developer, because most other people have to follow a zoning change. So that's why I just have that rub with that. But beyond those two things, that can be addressed. Generally, staff recommends that the Planning Commission could recommend approval of Z-20-14 for the zone change request, amending portions of the Brio PCD project plan onto the City Council, with staff's considerations based on the following findings, subject to the conditions below. So, I know you have questions for me. Feel free to ask them at this point.
Drew, this is Commissioner Hawley. I'll kick it off with the two notes, the one that you're comfortable with and the one that you're uncomfortable with. Are those the developer's notes? Is that where those came from?
Yes, these are not on the current site conceptual plan right now. These are two being proposed by the developer at this time.
So we could recommend, or not, but recommend to City Council approval, for instance, and with an exception, strike one or the other.
Correct.
Okay. And then those caves, the hobby caves, are those available to the general public, or would those be, and this may be a question if it went for the developer, or would they be for owners in Brio only?
Drake, I need you to answer that. I'm not going.
Dog barking is not me, to be abundantly clear. I'll try to use my human voice. Great question, Commissioner. Let me be clear. I guess maybe even apologize here right out of the gate. We don't intend to put hobby caves at this location, and so we totally agree with Drew's statement. And so I guess that's the short answer to your question. We're not going to have hobby caves here. We agree with striking that out of that language that was included in our application.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a plan for what will go there?
It's just what Drew summarized in his staff report. What our full intent, what our intent there is to just match the zoning that had already been in place, which is C2, and just not, I should say, discontinue the emphasis of a clinic medical use on that site. We've had C2 zoning there from the get-go, but there was just this emphasis on clinic medical use. And so after having it on the market for, it's been over 2 years now and receiving hardly any interest whatsoever, talking to our commercial broker, his recommendation is that we emphasize the flexibility that's on that parcel. And so our response to his feedback is, let's de-emphasize medical clinic use and emphasize the C2 zoning, as Drew just summarized.
Okay. This Commissioner Hawley again, what size is that C2 pink area?
It's around 5 acres, 4 to 5 acres.
And what size parcels would you break that up into?
That's a great question, but it's too early to tell because that would be determined by the interest that comes from folks wanting to locate there.
Right. Okay.
Drew, could you tell us again what C2 would allow? I know you read some of the things, but could you just review those again?
Yeah, it's almost any kind of retail, but not big box. If that, I mean, that's the best way to say it. It's almost any kind of retail you can think of, but not the big box type businesses.
Okay.
So, it wouldn't be a Lowe's, it would not be a Home Depot, probably not even a Walmart unless they came back and changed that. But, any other types of just your average C2, it could be restaurants, it could be, just any other kind of retail, small retail type, plazas, commercial plazas is probably what fit in there. Again, the acreage is 4.2.
Yeah.
So I don't think you'd have room for a big box and parking anyway.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't make it.
So did we figure out what they mean by horizontal or vertical yet? I know that was a concern.
Yeah, they struck it from there. It's not going to be there.
Well, they struck hobby.
In addition to striking the hobby case, we'd be supportive of striking everything after the word uses, after mixed uses in that statement in the report. Just that whole parenthetical statement, horizontal or vertical, along with hobby case may be appropriate. We would support and want that stricken. So just have the sentence end after uses.
Okay.
And while I'm mentioning that, just a quick note, that C2 zoning also allows for like office type of use too, which we feel is an appropriate use for that area within Brio, in addition to what Drew was saying.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of covered that under, it also states administrative professional is used in there and any other thing associated with C2. So that covers all that.
Right.
This is Commissioner Hanson. On that street that they're going to tee off, I'm assuming that you said that the city recommends that as well. That includes fire department, things like that, where there's not going to be a safety issue or a lack of response time getting in and out of there or anything like that.
Well, I haven't specifically talked with Chief Evans about it, but we have there's three main, let's see, I'm going to count them real quick. I got one, I got two, I've got three, I got four other inlets, outlets on the subdivision.
I missed the number one up there on the top right. So I was thinking just coming from the bottom up, that would, yeah.
Yeah, so I got this one up here, and so I've got four of them coming in and out, and two of them are major, parkway type roads, and the other two are pretty good sized residential roads as well.
Okay, thank you.
And luckily, the fire station, if you don't know, is sitting right here anyway.
Yeah.
Wouldn't take them long to get anywhere up in there.
Yeah.
This is a public hearing, Jason.
Any other questions for Drew or for Drake? If not, I would open the public hearing and ask if there was any public comment.
All right. We do have two public comments. Dick and Laurie Saunders. Just want to confirm 9/1/20 meeting agenda item 8 zone change request from Coal West is for only the Brio development. It does not say Brio in the agenda, only in the meeting packet. Thank you. And then the next comment from Barry Burnett. I'm a resident of Brio and also a voting member of the Brio HOA Board of Directors. The proposed amendment increases the amount of private roads by an estimated 13% and decreases the number of homes by an estimated 34 units. 3,400 per month less income to the Brio HOA. This adversely affects the reserves needed to support / repair the community infrastructure, thereby increasing the financial burden on the residents. I have requested that Coal West change the amended plat to make the northernmost road a public road rather than a private road. I requested that the Planning Commission support this change to the conceptual site plan, thereby reducing the private roads and shifting the added cost to this amendment, if any, to the developer rather than the Brio homeowners. Thank you. That is all of the comments that I have.
Thanks, Tara. I guess I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Commissioner Hanson, so moved.
Second, Commissioner Hawley, second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hanson, second by Commissioner Hawley. In favor, Commissioner Hanson.
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Musso,
Aye.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith, aye. Motion passes. Which street was,
Yeah, the northernmost.
Belt called him Commissioner Burnett, but the northernmost street? I don't know if that makes any sense to make that a public street. Because the major arteries are public, correct?
Well, I know this one over here is. And I think
Yeah,
this
Rialto
one-
Park.
and this one is. And pretty sure this one is. So I'm pretty sure the one he's talking about is right here that I've kind of fattened up a little bit.
Is that correct?
Let me go through on that while you're talking about it. You have outlined that correctly. So that one kind of that you just hatched, we would intend to keep that private. Really, how private versus public has fallen out here, commissioners, is everything in the yellow shaded areas have been publicly dedicated streets. Those are the estate lots, the bigger lots that Drew was mentioning earlier. The streets that are kind of inside of the orange areas, except for ones like giving access to the Rialto Parkway, those are primarily private streets. And so we would exactly right there. That's a private street, for example. That one is a private street, and the connecting streets there, those are private streets. And I just want to make a note, private streets and public streets have been contemplated in the Brio PCD since the dawn of the Brio PCD. So this is nothing new to the residents that are there in Brio. And so with the change from the single family attached, the change from the townhomes up in that northern area, we would intend to keep that private. And then the area that is orange up along Washington Parkway, our intent has been to keep that, or to have that be a private street as well, because of the enclave. That type of product, the patio residential, has had private street access to those lots heretofore.
Yeah,
we addressed this with the residents at our meeting we had with them earlier in the year. I'm sorry, not in the year, earlier in the month, and it responded to their feedback. And really, at the end of the day, the street classification is a product of the type of housing that it's serving, and so that's been how we've been developing Brio.
Okay. Great.
Drake, this is Commissioner Hanson. Can you speak to that second comment about the financial burden being increased on the residents? Do you see that as being accurate?
I would say that the responsibility for maintaining the private streets does fall onto the homeowners association, the residents of Brio. There is no doubt about that. And then again, I would just underscore how the fact that these private streets and public streets have been contemplated in Brio since the beginning of the PCD. And so it hasn't been hit. It's something that's very, transparent, very apparent that there are some streets that are public and some streets that are private. When we talk to Mr. Burnett, we have the highest amount of respect for Barry. We work with him in the HOA. As the chair said, he's a former commissioner himself on the planning commission, and we really respect him. When we talked about him and kind of walked through what our plan is, his ultimate response to us verbally was, this isn't as bad as I had thought it would be originally. And so I was frankly a little surprised to hear his feedback here in the meeting, but I respect it. But it's just one of the elements of our development where there are areas of public streets and areas of private streets, and private streets are not maintained by the city. And so therefore that responsibility falls to the homeowners.
Drew, from the city's point of view, do you have a comment on that as well, about the streets being, I don't know. I mean, I guess I understand the guy's point.
Well, I mean, I will tell you this, history, just history on private streets, whether it's Brio, Stuckey Farms, wherever. As soon as people move in and they get their first assessment on the streets, they come to the city and say, what's it going to take to make these city streets? You know, I mean, without fail. And I don't mean to snicker about it, but it's just a history. Now, I can see where some of them have their purpose, you know, depending on the types of home on it, etc. But again, it's hard to ask, and this is where I get it in, especially in a PCD, where I have all these people who live on public streets. They're all putting in money to make, you know, to take care of these guys' street here, and I think this is going to be a private street too. Drake can speak up if it isn't, but I think it's being thought about as a private one as well. So all these people are having to put in part of their HOA fees go to take care of certain people's roads that they probably maybe only go on to deliver cookies when they find out someone's sick, you know, would be about it. So I see the rub there. I'm just speaking as a planner, a person who's been doing this for 20 plus years, talking about private versus public. So, you know, I can see probably this one up here, the one they talked about in this new area, and maybe even this one over here. But, you know, here they're already in private as well. Adding more does put a burden on. That's just one of those things you have to weigh out, whether it's the owner or the planning commission or the city council. I know I just beat around the bush and didn't say much, but I hope you know.
Yeah. My other concern about making streets that are designated as private currently public is there's different cross sections. There's different that don't necessarily meet the cross section of the city standard, and so we would kind of be. That would be my concern. I would just go with the developer. Sounds like they've had conversations and have always planned on maintaining those as private streets, and I'd probably stick with that if that's what their intentions are.
Chairman Smith, I will state that I think this road up here that I just kind of heavily did with the private, this one is a new change, I'm pretty sure. This one was going to be public when it had the other home design on it.
Oh.
So it's this area up here. I think this one's the one that, you know, is being added differently from the original plan.
That's kind of what I was wondering is if is the plan going to change something? Because I would side with the resident at that point. But I mean, I understand both sides, but I wouldn't want to be living there and the developer decides to change something and all of a sudden it gets more expensive for me. I don't know. Another doozy.
This is Commissioner Hawley for Drake. I think the HOA and their governing board, their concerns, or at least I'm on an HOA, my initial would be all the initial construction. While those homes are being built, that private street's going to take a heck of a beating. Once those homes are built, the traffic won't be as heavy and heavy by heavy construction vehicles. I wonder if any concession could be made by Brio and Cole West to go in and maintain those streets until it's all built out and then turn them private. Here you go. We're all done. We maintained the street. We've kept it in good order. You're getting a good street. Now you take care of it from here on. Is that something you would consider?
I appreciate the question, Commissioner Hawley. If I understand what you're asking, I think the direct response to that is the fact that when we're constructing there and we're managing our trades, the subcontractors that we use to build the homes there on those private streets, we're cleaning up after ourselves, right? And we're fixing things that are damaged, and we're leaving behind, something in good order. And so I guess the answer to your question is we already do that.
Okay, good.
And we leave a mess for the residents to clean up or to fix after we leave. And so we respect that. I think we're already doing that. I just want to make a note about the private streets to kind of piggyback on what Chair Smith just mentioned is these private streets have a different roadway cross section, a different roadway character. They're narrower than the public streets, which meet the city standards and specifications for a city-owned, publicly dedicated right-of-way. And so ultimately, one of the positive things, again, we can't argue at all or deny the fact that the responsibility of maintenance falls on the residents. But one of the positive things about these streets that are designated private, that are designed private, that are built private, is the narrower section actually has a natural tendency of slowing traffic and making kind of a more calm corridor for travel and for living on and walking on. And so just a quick note there. And then as far as the section that Drew has highlighted there, that had been once in the yellow land use, and now we're proposing it turn into that orange land use, the residential to the patio residential. That's certainly a road, as Drew mentioned, because it had been kind of originally master planned and our overall kind of lot development, lot layout as a public thoroughfare. We're certainly open, if that is a concern, we're certainly open to keeping that as a public thoroughfare and not changing the character to a private street. That's something we would certainly be open to. One of the elements of going forward as far as planning from a developer's perspective are these other areas that we've been contemplating to have as private streets for years now. We kind of base the product, the housing product that is designed to be there. We kind of use the roadway section to help us fit a little bit more product in there, just to be quite open and blunt and transparent about it. And so we would, propose keeping those as we've outlined, but that one that Drew just outlined in green, we'd certainly be open to keeping as public.
Good man. Thank you.
So this is Commissioner Musso. So Drake, tell me a little bit about what the product is that you're going to put in the SFD patio, the new product, as opposed to, isn't it going to be similar to what you have in the enclaves already?
Similar, but on just a little smaller scale. So really the difference is from the townhome that we had originally contemplated in these two areas that we're proposing to change. Really, it's changing it from an attached, plex type of situation, still single family, but attached. Our proposal is to change it to a detached single family product, but more dense than the enclave. So something that would fit that we're contemplating that we'll likely see if we are able to move forward with this proposal is to have lots that are single family detached in these patio residential -3 areas that are approximately 40-foot wide single family detached lots.
So are they going to be single level mostly, or are you going to go with a 2-story then?
These will all be single level. These we actually do have a floor plan that we're in the process of developing with elevations, and they're going to be beautiful, beautiful homes and just less to maintain.
Okay, and they're going to be small. I mean, you're talking 1,200 to 1,500 square feet probably then, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Small.
Drake, the gentleman this is Commissioner Hanson, the gentleman that made the comment in the public comment about the price increase that you mentioned, you've discussed with him many things. Was he speaking for himself only, or was he speaking on behalf of the homeowners?
I don't. You'd have to ask him what he's speaking on behalf of. I can tell you what my speculation is. My speculation is he may be speaking for a broader group. I don't know if he's speaking on behalf of the HOA. He's one board member on the HOA board. The other 2 board members, out of full disclosure, are Coal West employees. And so I don't think he's speaking on behalf of the board, because the board would not have supported his comment.
Interesting. Okay. Did he, I can't remember the name of the staff member who read the comment. Did he Does he say that in that comment? If you could look at that again, who he's speaking on behalf of?
That was Tara. Tara, are you still there?
We might have put
Yes,
Tara.
I am here.
Yeah, in that comment, could you look at that again at the beginning and see if he indicates he's speaking for anybody in addition to himself?
You bet. Just one moment. Sorry, I just closed that sheet. So give me just a second. I'll pull it back up.
While you're pulling that up, Tara, commissioners, I'm more than happy to listen to comment from each of you. I'm just thinking about the residents. If in my development, if my developer decided to change our road from all of a sudden where it's a financial burden on me, I would pause on that myself. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm overlooking this or I'm thinking too much about it, or if it's nothing. Is it something in your minds as well that you're questioning?
Well, he said he would leave it public.
That's the top half. I think you're talking about the bottom half. Is that right?
The city maintains it, which means we maintain it.
Right.
I'd almost prefer having it private and let the
where the applicant hasn't requested it to be public, that we just leave it private.
So
I pointed it out, commissioners, because right now it was always designed to be a public road.
Right.
When it had the yellow coloring to it, it had to have been a public road. So I think taking it down to the orange, which I have down here mixed in this orange between some public and some private. That's why I drew attention to it, just because of that fact, that I could see that was, what the comment made in the public hearing. I think that's what was being referred to. This area was being added as more private than what was originally sold to the clientele.
Which would increase their financial burden. Is that what am I
I
putting?
think
this
that's the
together?
point he was trying to make. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just talking about their HOA fees. Well, fewer lots, less money, less revenue, more maintenance. So by 30 home-ish, 30-ish homes, 856 to 805, I think. So 51 homes.
Did you want me to
All of
read
Brio has-
Mr. Bennett's comment?
I am interested to know if he was representing himself and speaking for more than himself.
It looks like, so I'll reread the first part because it looks like he's representing himself, but as a member of the Brio HOA Board of Directors. It says, I am a resident of Brio and also a voting member of the Brio HOA Board of Directors. The proposed amendment increases the amount of private roads by an estimated 13% and decreases the number of homes by an estimated 34 units, which is $3,400 per month less income to the Brio HOA. This adversely affects the reserves needed to support and repair community infrastructure, thereby increasing the financial burden on the resident.
Okay.
So it looks like he's representing himself, but he is on the board of directors.
Kind of like what Drake said. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Am I right, Drew, that the city maintains public roads, public streets?
Yes.
Yeah, so if they leave it public, guys, our taxes pay for that road. If we switch it to private, then the HOA pays for it. I don't know why, as a taxpayer, I would want to pay for their road. So.
Well, they're paying for part of your roads too, though. Just, I'm not trying to be contradictory, but everybody
fair.
pays for everybody's roads.
I mean, I can see it. I can see his point. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm missing something because, like I said, living in an HOA, I wouldn't be excited about my dues going up because the developer changed the type of development, into it. That's all I'm saying. And I mean, I guess I don't know. I understand both sides, but I don't want to take that lightly because that is kind of a big deal. The people that live there, certainly older people that are on a limited budget, you hear it all the time. You hear the argument. I'm sure that Drake heard it in his meeting. Listen, we're on a fixed income and all the stuff that they're going to throw out there and say. I just am aware of that, I guess.
But Jason, nobody ever said their dues were going to go up. They just said he'd have less revenue.
Right.
Well, you're right. That's an assumption on my part. Less revenue, ultimately, I would think would be that your dues are going to go up.
Could be, or a special assessment. So, yeah, one time.
They're only going one way if you have less homes.
Yep, yep.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment, if I may. This is Drake Howell with Coal West. Just a quick note before I forget, on the two notes that Drew pointed out on our land plan there. Drew mentioned that he's not comfortable with the first one that he's starring as I'm speaking, and is okay with the bottom one there. We are aligned with Drew and support that as well. I just wanted to make that comment for the record.
Okay. So we can remove that. So I guess, yeah, my opinion still kind of stands that the applicant didn't apply to, I mean, I guess it was public before, but they're almost asking for it to be private because they think it matches better with their concept, I guess is how I heard it. Is that correct, Drake? Am I misspeaking?
Yeah, no, that's a fair summary. The orange product is served by a mixture of private and public streets. And so when we are changing that area in the northwest from yellow to orange, we were proposing that change to a private street as well. But again, I wanna hear is we're okay if that's kind of a heartburn element. We're okay to keep that section of that northern road that Drew had outlined earlier. We're okay to keep that public. That one's not gonna negatively affect us, and we can move forward with that. Just want to be clear about that.
Is your cross section different from, like, did you make that narrower cross section?
50 foot. We put in the section that the city would accept in that section there.
Would it be wider? Would you go from a wider street as a public street to a narrower street as a private street where at the intersection?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So
are the speed limit's the same, 25 miles an hour?
I don't think these are posted, so that's the default, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Drake. You've really been transparent for sure.
This is Commissioner Hanson. I don't have anything else.
Hey, Commissioner Smith, can I comment on that?
Yeah, you bet.
So the private streets are a narrower cross section. That I've been listening to it all, and they are a narrower cross section, which does not meet our city standard. That's why they go to the private, and they have to meet at least a 50-foot right of way to make a public street. So that's what I'm going to leave mine at.
So, okay.
Thanks, Brandon.
Well, if there's no other comment, I'd entertain a motion.
Did we close the public hearing, Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
We did, okay.
You said.
Couldn't remember. I'd like to make a motion, but I have no idea what to make a motion on, honestly.
Well,
we're talking about a zone change?
Correct.
And passing this on to the city council for their approval?
Okay.
All right, then this is Commissioner Hawley. I will make a motion that on item 8A of our agenda today, public for the consideration of Brio, the city council, we recommend to the city council approval to change the request Z-20-14 to amend the PCD plan community development. 1, amend the plan single family attached, parentheses SFA, parentheses townhomes to single family detached parentheses SFD patio residential in phase 3G and 5A. 2, amend a portion of the planned single family detached SFD residential to single family detached SFD patio residential in phase 6. And 3, amend the language governing commercial use, C, down in the pink area designated C2 service commercial. Applicant is Cole West, with findings and conditions, but we need to add the conditions that the density, the note that Drew is not fond of about the density, be struck.
Right.
And that street be left public in the upper left-hand portion of this. I don't know what it's going to be called, but that street be left public. And in that commercial zone, Cole West is willing to strike the vertical and horizontal and hobby cave wording so that sentence ends in mixed uses. I'd like to see those conditions added to that so that the city council knows exactly what they're considering.
Can I comment really fast on that? This is Commissioner Hanson. I want to make sure that condition isn't being added because of what I was saying about that street being public or private. If it's private, that's fine. I'm just trying to understand, I guess I want to just go with it, but I don't want that to be kept a public street because one guy said, hey, it's going to be a bigger burden on us now. I just want to feel that pain and see if I'm understanding it wrong. I don't know. I guess I'm confused, but
no, for me, Commissioner Hanson, I think it removes any doubt that there will be some increases or some special assessments. And it kind of offsets the fact that we're going to have that reduced revenue. I think that just eliminates some heartburn for those people up in that area. This will be maintained. We don't need as much money. It's not as big a deal as we thought it was going to be. So let's let them build. Let's let them move forward. This is public. This is private. It's sixes. It's a wash. In my mind, that's why I make that comment.
I'd prefer to leave it as private. The applicant didn't ask for it. It was just a single resident, and the applicant.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. As I'm going back,
the cost of the improvement. I mean, not the maintenance, but the improvement. They're actually building the cross section. So I would prefer to leave it as private.
By leaving it private, and I'm certainly willing to go to listen to you guys, but by leaving it private, that actually costs the developer less.
Not necessarily.
It's narrower. It's got a different cross section.
Right. Correct. But that's what I'm saying. You're changing the burden. If you go to public, you're increasing the burden on the developer and decreasing the burden on the public. I mean, on the HOA and increasing the burden on the public. So the applicant hasn't requested a public street there. They've actually requested a private street.
Initially, it was a public street, and they want to change it to a private street.
They are requesting it to be private street now.
Right.
And I don't see a reason that it serves the public. Like if it access somewhere, then I would say, yeah, it serves the public. We need to maintain it as public.
Well, and that's why I asked Drew the question about us, the taxpayers, maintaining a public street in a private residential area. And Drew's point was we all supplement each other with our taxes and our streets. So that's why, in my thinking.
Gentlemen, if I may interject.
Sure.
I may be out of order.
Sure.
Can I add something, Mr. Chair? This is Drake again with COES. I think the bottom line is this: I don't believe in our application we explicitly asked for that to be private or we explicitly asked that to stay public. I think it was kind of an unaddressed issue, to be quite honest with you. I don't think we made formal application one way or the other on that specific street. What we've been saying is we're making specific application to change that land use in that specific area, and the land use that we're proposing it to become typically has been served by private streets. But the matter of whether it's public or private has not been explicit in our application. So that said, let me just propose something is if you see, I don't know if Drew can scroll down a little bit so we can see the top of this exhibit a little better. But on that side of the development, with the proposed orange area and the proposed yellow area being immediately adjacent to each other, that proposed yellow area on the far left would be served best by a public street. The area that we're proposing to change from yellow to orange immediately right of that is just from the nature of building that street. I think it makes most sense, quite honestly, and being quite upfront, it makes most sense to have that cross-section of roadway be consistent from the Rialto Parkway intersection all the way west up to that cul-de-sac area, and that we make that transition from public to private at that intersection where we remove the connection to Washington Parkway. I would just propose that as kind of, if I may, and again, I don't mean to be out of order, but just to reduce any confusion or any complication to the matter. I think that simplifies what we would intend to build there.
Okay.
And if I may just tag on to this a little bit, if that's okay, commissioners. And I'm glad Drake brought out, it has not been asked one way or the other. This is actually a good discussion you can have when and if you want to at the preliminary plat time. Because again, they don't state in most PCDs which the roads are. They just get approved so many cross sections, and then they bring you plats that say, here's the cross section we're going to use here. And so maybe just for tonight's purposes to help you move on, you can drop the roadway because it's not part of this application in essence. And I'm just trying to help you know that you can discuss this at length at the preliminary plat. Does that help?
I'm sorry, and I thought it was part of this application. I understand that the private street fits better with the product. So without restating my motion, can I just merely ask that that portion of my motion be struck and that we address at the preliminary plat process the construction of this road? Strike what I said about public and private.
I think that's appropriate.
Yes.
This is Commissioner Hanson. I would second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second after long discussion. So there's
Sorry about that. Sorry.
That's not your fault, is it? We all had the long discussion.
Yeah.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Hawley.
Aye.
Mr. Hanson.
Aye.
Commissioner Fitzunfu.
Aye.
Commissioner Musso.
He's sleeping.
He's
asleep. Commissioner Smith is an aye. And unless Commissioner Musso pipes up really fast, I'm going to say that he was an aye. I can't see his face though. For some reason, let me scroll over.
Commissioner Musso, just give a thumbs up or down. I can see you.
Okay, there.
Thumbs up.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I just had to scroll over. Motion passes unanimously. All right, item 9A, public hearing for consideration and recommendation to City Council, a general plan amendment G-20-06 to change from low density to INCOM, which is neighborhood commercial, located approximately 2000 South Washington Fields Road. The applicant is Greg MacArthur.
Thank you. Applicant is seeking amending the general plan land use map as stated at this location. The requested area covers approximately 3.07 acres. Is that area with the red box around it? It's not a real box, but that red line again, at this corner of Sandia or 2000 South of Washington Fields Road as stated. The applicant is seeking approval to have the land use designation changed to neighborhood commercial for the possibility to rezone the parcel into a commercial designation. The surrounding general plan land use designations are low density to the north, east, south, and west. The neighborhood commercial designation allows for the administrative, professional, and community commercial C1 zoning designations. Staff has reviewed the request change and finds that due to the specific location of the requested, presently two very busy streets on the north and east boundaries, that the proposal to move it to the neighborhood commercial could be considered. However, staff would also like to point out that this particular location has been through several proposed commercial changes in the past with no success. It is for that reason that staff does not have a recommendation on this application. And so I will leave that as a neutral for you folks. So staff's recommendation is to simply say, wishes to say neutral on the proposal and leaves that recommendation with the Planning Commission to either recommend approval or denial of G-20-06 to amend the general plan land use map from the current low density residential to the proposed neighborhood commercial designation as you see in your exhibit. And feel free to ask any questions you want. I'll answer what I can for you at this time.
This is Commissioner Hawley. What could they put there?
Well, administrative professional is offices, basically, you know, professional offices, lawyer, doctor, dentist.
Right.
C1 allows for retail. It's basically plaza type developments. But the question is going to be popping up that yes, a gas station with a conditional use permit could go there, but again, through a CUP. But again, remember, CUPs are approvals with conditions. So that's the harshest thing you could see there. And that has been proposed before, and that's been the crux to previous zone change, you know, in the past.
Thank you, Drew. Yeah, they've talked about a Maverick there for years.
Hey, Drew.
Yes.
Is that development across the field, across Sandia, is that still going in, or is it? I can't remember who proposed it, but
Sullivan.
Yeah, is that kind of stalled for right now? Because I don't see anything happening.
Well, I've had some people coming in looking at it, so it's not stalled, but it is zone PUDC.
Okay.
Which is commercial. That's a bad C, but take it there. I'll try to. But they have to still get a plan approved. So that would come before you, the Planning Commission, City Council, for their PUD design approval at a future date.
This is Commissioner Shield. Where's your access points into this property? You gonna come into 6th East, or where on Washington Fields Road can you get access?
Well, Brandon can jump in, but I'll just start. For the first 649 feet, it will be right in, right out only off of Washington Fields Road. But at 650, which I think we've measured out is somewhere up here, you can have full access. Am I right, Brandon?
That's correct.
Would there be access on 600 East at all?
Well, there could be, or that could not. You don't have to approve that at this point. You know, that's again, we're in a general plan stage. But the previous one probably would have passed if they would have took access off of 600 East. That one, you know, one of the approvals, or I mean, not approvals because it wasn't approved. One of the proposals back in the past, if they would have eliminated that, they might have got it passed, but they didn't. And I would recommend they don't even try to do that.
Don't even try to do what? That all access on Washington
No,
Field?
come in and out here.
Oh, because I don't like the other one at all. That curve is dangerous enough already.
I personally, just Commissioner Hanson, I personally don't have a problem with it being commercial there at all. It's just a matter of how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with a commercial because I don't know what else you're going to do with that.
Exactly.
Hey, Drew, could I jump in for in the first spacing right for the right in, right out. That has to be for the first 330 feet. It has to be 330 feet away from that light. And then your full movement is 660 feet. So that they're closer to that end where you got that full movement. 660.
Would the city require a medium done by the developer in there?
That would probably depend on a traffic study and see if it's warranted.
You guys ever notice Drew draws more as the night goes on? Is it just me?
Drew has to stay awake as
I
the
think
night
he's
goes
getting
on.
bored, yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
I need to get like a tablet or something.
Okay, gentlemen, can you hear me again?
Yes.
We can hear you. You're good.
Okay, I keep this. All right.
Let's listen to the public comment if there's any. I'd open the public hearing. So Tara, you're on.
Perfect. Okay. Clarissa Aviglin. There is no need for commercial area in the middle of housing area when over by Linz and Smith, there is plenty of room for that. Keep housing areas housing and commercial areas commercial. No need for extra traffic. Ashley Farmer. I live in Desert Meadows across the street from this property and we are on a blind corner. Please do not add more traffic to this corner by making this property commercial. There is plenty of other places for commercial. We moved to this area because it was low density residential and it had the country feel. Making this commercial would bring more lights, traffic, and noise right into our backyard. Please think of this as if it was your backyard. Josie Robinson. As the city council was made well aware in the past, the residents do not want commercial property on this plot of land. We made it clear that the safety of the intersection of Washington Fields Road and 2000 South is already a concern. This intersection has been a long-time problem with accidents, and even with the stoplight now having been there several years, it is still a safety issue. People continually run the red light when they are making a right-hand turn from Washington Fields Road onto 2000 South. There have been several times that I have been leaving my home in Desert Meadows and have a green light to cross the road and have very nearly been hit. Earlier this year, my niece who had been at my home was hit in the intersection. The traffic coming down the hill north on Washington Fields Road is also a concern for us residents leaving Desert Meadows. People continually speed down the hill, and as the city changed the right lane from a turning only lane to come into Desert Meadows to a through lane for the intersection, it is dangerous for residents leaving our neighborhood. This all ties back to a very valid reason we as residents do not want commercial property at this intersection. It would increase traffic and make the intersection worse. Another major point that has also been made by many residents in the past is that we simply do not want commercial buildings next door and at our back windows. We all know and love the charm and feel of the fields, and we did not build our homes here so we could look out the window at commercial buildings. My husband and I purchased lot 17 in Desert Meadows and built our home with the intent of raising our children here, where it feels great to be in the country and away from busy downtown areas. We've been in our home 12 years now and very much enjoy our backyard. Our lot looks directly out to the road and at Nichols Peak. We love seeing the gorgeous sunsets we have a perfect view of and seeing homes and fields across the road. We do not want to look out our window from our back patio and see a gas station, as we made it clear in the past, or any other business buildings. It does not fit the feel and what we love about where we live. Please listen to the homeowners. We plead with you not to allow this land to be used for business purposes. Mary Ann Jones. I am concerned about the property on the corner of Washington Fields Road and 2000 South Sandia being changed to neighborhood commercial. The accessibility of that property is going to be more and more challenging as the development north of the proposed change progresses. The traffic getting out of our subdivision, Nichols Peak, already poses safety issues, and homes and neighborhood commercial properties are not yet developed. The blind curve coming around the hill north for northbound traffic and those exiting that corner trying to proceed north will be difficult, as that lane quickly becomes left turn lane for those turning into Sandia. Nichols Drive is too close to the corner to make a left-hand turn from that property into Sandia with the traffic that will come with already approved subdivision. This will force more traffic through Case Circle, which is too narrow for more traffic, and also makes those cars exiting an already difficult corner on Brinkland Drive, as discussed at the beginning of this comment. More traffic from commercial property on that corner, along with developments already approved, will increase the danger of accidents due to the congestion caused and roads that were not originally planned to allow amount of traffic generated. The corner that is being requested reminds me of the corner that exists on 1000 East and Red Hills Parkway in St. George. Trying to turn south on that corner when trying to exit the businesses, Tropical Smoothie, from the driveway on 1000 East is not safe, and is not safe as it is, and they don't have a subdivision with all the homes and townhomes that we have approved to be built across the street, as the corner in question already has. I feel that the future traffic created by approved projects needs to be considered and the negative impact on the current residents considered. I'm asking that change be declined. All right. Mariana James. I understand that tonight you will be voting on amending the general plan from low density to neighborhood commercial at approximately 2000 South Washington Fields Road. I would like to address a few concerns as to why I strongly oppose this amendment to the general plan. I work for a developer, builder, and have done my homework on commercial being developed in the heart of an already established bedroom community. It has been proven by statistics, appraisal, home sales, and real estate professionals that commercial is detrimental to surrounding property values. No matter the type of commercial, the effects are the same. It is not right for one to benefit at the expense of many. There will be collateral damage if this is approved, and it will be all the homeowners of Nichols Peak Estates and surrounding neighborhoods. I have researched surrounding neighborhoods and towns. She has a website. I am unable to upload the exhibits, and not one subdivision has developed commercial on such a small parcel of property in an already established bedroom neighborhood. The best example I can give is the Lynn Shopping Center, the Desert Hills new commercial, Summit Maverick off River Road, and Dino Crossing development. These developments have been developed with large enough area to merit positive growth, not backed up and surrounded by homes. There is not commercial in the heart of Bloomington, Little Valley, Southgate, Bloomington Hills, Coral Canyon, Brio, or Sun River. Commercial is developed on outlying areas. There have been other attempts for commercial to be developed here on the adjacent property. The proposal was denied several times by the council, deeming this an inadequate location for commercial. Nothing has changed to change that. Actually, it has now more of a negative decision due to the traffic increase over the years. Commercial will bring a large volume of traffic to an already congested intersection, which poor access to this parcel. All the homes backing this proposed parcel of land do not have a block wall to defer the noise pollution, light pollution, potential accident, and potential crime from our backyards and our homes. Everything that comes with commercial zoning. Please, as our elected officials, please take into consideration the magnitude of people this decision will affect. This will affect our quality of life, safety, homes, and quiet enjoyment of our home. I think it was supposed to be quiet enjoyment of our home. We all have the right to live in a space peacefully and free from recurring disruptions or disturbances. Thank you for your time. Kelly Blake. We are opposed to the zone change. The highest and best use of this property is residential. The surrounding areas that are adjacent to the property are all residential, and it makes sense to keep it as it is currently zoned. The ingress and egress to this property does not meet the code as it currently exists for commercial purposes. In addition, it is not safe for traffic on and off Washington Fields Road because it is on a blind corner and therefore presents a safety hazard. As previously stated, the highest and best use of this property is residential. To create a commercial zone in the middle of a residential neighborhood is not the best interest of the citizens. There are more than sufficient commercial zones currently existing within a 2-mile radius. Sam and Danielle Johnson. We live in Desert Meadows subdivision and our backyard lines up with Washington Fields Road, directly across from the proposed zone change. As much as the idea of having some commercial conveniences very close by is amenable, we believe that the safety issues outweigh any benefits. The biggest safety issue is the blind corner right at that intersection. We have witnessed so many people come to a screeching stop or no stop at all at the light. We are sure the number of accidents reports at that intersection will verify it as well. We don't even allow our children to go near the intersection without an adult due to safety concerns. All of this happening at an intersection that is they're already very busy. Adding commercial services of any type would only compound the problem. In addition to the increased traffic congestion and safety concerns, commercial zoning would bring light and noise pollution that we purposefully chose to avoid in moving into a low-density residential zone. Vital services are already accessible and nearby, and changing the zoning will not be conducive to the favorable family living and quiet neighborhoods the low-density zoning currently provides us. For all these reasons, we do not believe this zoning is a logical, suitable, or responsible way to grow and develop this piece of land, and we respectfully object to the proposed change to the current general plan. Karen Blake. I am opposed to the zone change mentioned. This property borders two very busy roads and a subdivision. This subdivision has been here for close to 30 years. When building here, the surrounding area was zoned residential or agricultural. We built here for that reason. We did not want to live close to commercial. I think the master plan is put into place so that owners are aware of what they are purchasing. I also feel changing this property to commercial opens the door to too many safety issues. The property will only have the means to exit safely right. You will be able to exit right onto 300 East or right onto Washington Fields Road. Turning right onto Washington Fields Road has you driving right in front of the Entz homes. Traffic will back up in front of their home, waiting for the light. If you want to turn left onto 300 East, you'll need to cross 2 lanes of traffic plus the turning lane, adding to the problem of safety because this would be on a blind corner. If a person wants to turn left onto Washington Fields Road, they would need to cross traffic as well. As it is now, there is not room for cars to exit this way. Most likely they will turn left out onto the out of the business and travel west on K Circle to exit on Franklin Way. This has them driving through the subdivision. The traffic through our subdivision will increase substantially. I feel speed will be an issue as well. We have many children that live in this subdivision. The increased traffic and speed will cause many safety issues. I feel the use of this property is residential as it is currently zoned. If you approve neighborhood commercial, you open the door to businesses that will not be conducive to the surrounding area. Traffic, noise, loitering, and lack of safety will increase substantially. May I remind you that you are responsible to keep the development standards that are intended to protect adjacent neighborhood zones and avoid the creation of traffic volumes that cannot be accommodated by existing streets. Please reject the proposal for neighborhood commercial zone change. Ryan Robinson. I have concerns about commercial being allowed at this intersection. I don't think this is a good location for commercial due to 1, limited access to space in an already congested intersection with a semi-blind corner that has already been the cause of a number of accidents and close calls. 2, traffic speed and congestion. 3, proximity to residential streets for access and safety. And that is all the comments that I have.
Okay. Commissioner Smith, can I speak?
Yes, you bet.
Okay, my phone was down, so I didn't have a chance to talk while you guys were doing this. Number of concerns. First off, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, I live in Desert Meadows, and what those folks were saying, coming out of Desert Meadows now, turning to the north, if you're turning on a red light, it is dangerous because the traffic is at 45 miles an hour. Whether it should be or not, it is. So turning onto Washington Fields Road is hazardous at best. Even with the light there's been times when I've been going through the light on a green light and people have turned in front of me going to the north off of Sandia, and I've almost been hit 2 or 3 different times there because they don't pay attention to the light. The other thing is that where Drew was drawing, I agreed that you can only have access at the 330 mark. You're only going to be able to have access turning right into that if it's zone commercial or not, and then turning right onto Washington Fields Road going out. There's no possible way you could turn left to go north onto Washington Fields Road. And then the further up the road that you go, where to that 660 mark, that intersection right there is right as you're coming around that blind corner. I walked on that this morning again also, and that would be really hazardous, in all honesty, to turn out of that subdivision to go to the north. So consequently, you're going to force people going north on Washington Fields Road to go right through the subdivision, as those people just indicated, off of Kay's Drive there. So, you know, this thing has gone through the mill about 3 or 4 different times. Every time it comes up, it gets shot down, and the reasons being are all those stated this evening. It's not suitable for low density housing. You know, nobody's going to, in low density, there's like 12,000 square foot lots or 10,000 square foot lots. It's not economically viable for that either. So that causes a problem because, you know, what do you do with it then? The biggest concern of everybody in that area is going to be having a gas station on that corner. And on that corner or on the one to the north of it, nobody's going to want a gas station, and a gas station is inappropriate in a residential zone such as this, because if you look at the gas stations that have been built in the last 5 years, 10 years, all throughout the city, none of them have been in a residential neighborhood. They're all out on the periphery, and that's what people are most concerned with is the potential of having a gas station, the potential of having a professional office building, some other low usage commercial. I don't think people have an issue with. The issue is that if somebody's going to sit there and propose a gas station, and I'm fairly certain that's what the Patels and Mr. MacArthur are going to eventually propose on that corner. So we're stuck in a quandary here because it's not the highest and best use isn't low density residential, but the highest and best use isn't commercial due to the fact, I am so sorry, dogs in our house. It's not commercial because of the ingress and egress issues that you have with it. So those are just my comments. I mean, like I said, we're kind of stuck in the middle with this thing, the way it's designed and proposed.
I'd like to tag on to this, Commissioner Hawley, what Commissioner Musso said. I totally agree. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to vote no right now. The 330, right in, right out, they're going to turn left. That 660 crossing Washington Fields Road there, everybody stated correctly, that's a semi-blind to blind. People are always going too fast around there in the first place, driving into those to the block wall. I know 3 times I've come out of my subdivision, which is just around the corner, and seen block walls with big holes in them because people are going too fast. It would only be a matter of time before somebody got killed or seriously hurt coming in and out of that property. I'm totally opposed.
This is Commissioner Hanson. My thoughts really, I guess, are with both of those corners. I know the applicant's just on this one corner here, but like I said, I personally don't mind commercial, but I'm starting to wonder if this whole intersection is just destined to never, it's like going to be an issue every time, no matter what's proposed there, whether it's housing, like Commissioner Musso was saying, which is probably not its best use, or commercial, which we can't figure out how to get traffic through there safely. I just had one question for clarification. One of the comments mentioned on Washington Fields Road when you're coming north, that right only to 2000 South was changed to a through lane. Is there a reason that was done? And maybe Brandon can answer that. And is that correct? That used to be a right only and now it's a through?
First of all, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't give you the answer why it was changed right now, Jason. I'm not sure.
That's fine. I do know it is a blind corner. That's true. But I mean, we're going to have the same arguments with the other side of the other corner as well, it seems. And I personally welcome commercial somehow if we can figure it out. I don't know what the answer is right there.
Well, like Commissioner Musso says, 3 or 4 times this has been brought up, and 3 of the 4 times, counting tonight, gas station has come up, and everybody around there is opposed to a Maverick type facility. The only one that people were semi okay with is one time they were going to put a mortuary, or least it was talked about. They were going to put a mortuary there, and everybody was kind of okay with that because it'd be real quiet.
Wow. Why can't there be something there where 600 East is the entrance? Where something, a doctor's office or something that's not a gas station.
There probably could be. However, you're asking for a zone change, and unless we can make it as a zone change where that is a PUD that we have control over what's the plan going into it, that's the rub. So it, like I said, I don't necessarily have an issue with it being commercial as long as it's not high volume commercial, because like I said, I don't know what else you do with it.
I'm not opposed to it being commercial if everything was right-hand turns. They could go south on Washington Fields Road to the New Merrill Road and get out of Dodge. Right.
Yeah, but turning left out of that thing is going to be it's an accident waiting to happen.
That's
no doubt.
That's my problem.
Can't they put one of those medians that prevent you from going left, where it's like a median, like you have to drive over the top of it to do it?
Well, but
I have one of those medians in front of my office. Okay, every night I turn left. I'm sorry, coming out of my office, and I'm just waiting for the St. George police to be there one night. But every night I turn left, and it's onto River Road. So I'm taking my life into my hands.
So the new commissioner, Shiel, is a widely known expert in commercial real estate. Doug, what do you think of it? Doug, what do you think of this? You have any opinion one way or the other?
Well, I've looked at that property for a long time because I've thought that it could be a good place for a vacation rental. I thought of that idea for it. I think you go up the hill, and what do you have up there? You have a big crane that parks up there. You have wrecked cars up there. So they'd rather see that kind of stuff than a commercial building. That doesn't make sense to me. I wonder if you scroll out on this just a little bit, or scroll out. How can we take and make that a bigger parcel and combine it down and push it a little further south? I know there's a pretty good elevation change there, but maybe that's what we're going to have to do is push that entrance clear down there, and I mean, it could be an apartment project too, but then you're going to fight apartments because of all the traffic. I really don't know what that property is good for.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Commissioner Shiel. One of the ladies pointed out that it would be better low density housing, but that would create more traffic, I think, than a commercial project. But I wouldn't have any problem with it if they had to turn right and go south on Washington Fields Road every time. If we could make it enforceable.
So you can do that, I think, but you will limit who's going to go there retail wise.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a gas station, which is fine. You're not going to get a gas station there anyway. I think over on Sullivan's property, there's a possibility of that, but not on this property.
Yeah.
I think you could see like a Family Dollar. That would be your biggest box that would go there. And you could see some small, like you have over there at Desert Canyon or by Desert Hills High School, that little project that they have.
What's your opinion?
But neighbor,
So can we hear from the applicant if he's available?
Sure. Hi, everybody. This is Greg MacArthur. So we're representing a client on this piece. That's why I put the application through. I have my business partner here is Greg Whitehead, and he's very familiar with this property. So I'm going to turn the time over to him to talk about it.
Thanks. This is Greg Whitehead. So I've been working on this property for 5 years or so. So there is a bit of a history on this piece. One thing that is to note is when we bought this parcel, it was master planned commercial. So, and it was master planned commercial for a lot of years prior to us buying it. And so, I mean, it's been kind of bouncing back and forth, but it's definitely been on the master plan as commercial for a lot of years. When we looked at doing this before, several years ago, we did a full traffic study, and something that has been brought up now a few times. The traffic study determined that the entrance that would be at the very farthest south is not considered blind, and it gives plenty of sight for turning left or right, is what the traffic study determined. Just FYI. Also, we had a sign on here when it was master plan commercial that just said, available at some point in the future. And we got some calls that from interested commercial uses on the property. One of which was home away from home daycare, which unfortunately, because we couldn't get the zoning at the time, we couldn't put the daycare in this location, which I think would have been a great use. Instead, we had to put them in the closest allowable zone, which is the industrial zone. And so we ended up putting our daycare on Washington Dam Road in an industrial park. So I think that there are uses on this land. It absolutely will not work for low density housing. We've tried, and we've gone in and done every type of cutting up of this that is feasible, and it does not work. Anytime we've even looked at anything gas related, it has been small and neighborhood oriented. Nothing, Maverick has never been involved, nothing of that size or complexity. We were much more in the convenience side than the gas side. But, if that doesn't work out, if that's some kind of sticking point or bugaboo for everybody, that's not even being looked at this moment. What we know right now is that its current zoning designation does not work. And we feel like this is kind of an island between roads, and its best use is commercial. And so that's why we're applying for a neighborhood commercial zone.
Questions for the applicant?
This is Commissioner Hanson. I have a question for the applicant. You listened to all the comments from the residents there. What do you think? You're hearing what we're hearing.
Yeah, yeah. And I got to start off by saying I'm absolutely sympathetic, and I listen to those. As a matter of fact, when I prior to this time, so last time when I was working on zone change, I personally went to all the homes around Nichols Peak on Cave Circle, Nichols Drive, and knocked on their doors and introduced myself, explained, what we want to do and that we want to be, keep them in mind. So every time I look at any parcel and doing a development, I have to think to myself, would I want this near me? And if this was me, how would I feel about this? And I truthfully believe this is not going to be detrimental to the neighborhood. I know it is, anytime I go into a city, I feel like public enemy number one. But, a year down the road, things are built out. Honestly, it never is as bad as what people think it is. And now there's a place to go and get a convenient drink or a Coke or, whatever it might be. If it was a gas station, I'm not even saying it's that. I'm saying the calls I received, this is very true. The calls I received to go in this neighborhood commercial was daycare, a dance studio, and a karate dojo. Those were the three most ready to go as soon as we were done. And I had to tell them, I'm sorry, we don't have the zoning. I got a call after the zone was rejected from a member in Washington City saying it would be really nice if you could do like an assisted living or something of this other nature. I said, well, I can't because I got rejected on the zoning right now. So I think people do want these types of neighborhood commercial businesses. They don't understand, and everybody looks at the worst, and I understand that. And my feeling is even the worst things, which I guess people consider a gas station the worst things, I don't think are as bad as what people perceive. So I'm sympathetic. I really am. I think dearly of my neighborhood. I have deep roots in Southern Utah. I care about it. And I wouldn't be doing something if I thought it was horrible for everybody. And I just truly don't think it's bad.
Thanks. You got to figure out how to put a Trader Joe's there and everybody be on your side.
Yeah, right.
That might be a little.
So what, Drew, maybe you can answer this question. So permissible use for a daycare and assisted living, aren't they conditional use in a residential area? Drew?
I was talking muted. Daycare in a home is a conditional use permit. If someone runs it out of their home, if it's a business, you can't do like a building, like say he talked about the company, Home Away from Home. That's strictly commercial or industrial. So, but people can run daycares out of their home as a home occupation as a conditional use permit.
Okay,
and they can also do it for elderly people, limited to only so many of them in their home. But again, that's not a full-blown business. Full-blown businesses would be commercial, like a beehive home would have to be commercial.
Okay.
Other questions for the applicant or staff?
And if I may remind you, if your public hearing is still open.
I wrote it down while
Thank you.
So we can close the public hearing if we would like.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hawley and a second by Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Hawley?
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Commissioner Musso?
Aye.
Mr. Smith is an aye. Public hearing is closed. Any other questions for the applicant, for staff? Discussion amongst the commission and or a motion?
I'd like to know when.
Go ahead, Brian.
This is Commissioner Musso. I'd like to know when the traffic study was done and if it's been done since all the development further to the south has been built out. Because obviously if they did a traffic study, it was a number of years ago, at least 4 years ago, and there's been a whole lot of growth to the south of us since that last traffic study would have been completed. So I'm not buying the fact that that's not a blind corner. I experience it every day. So, you know, I'm just not buying it. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick, did you have a question earlier? I think you started to ask one. And
Well, I was gonna ask Commissioner Shell what his thoughts were on professional in that area. If you had anything, but it's probably not really relevant now, though.
It's a good use for that, but are you going to be able to fill it up? I think that's one thing. I think that's the problem is the tenants. Who's really going to go there? So you've got to put something that's going to attract the right tenant to take that property. So, you know, you can put office there, but you don't want an empty office building either.
Yeah.
For highest and best use, you have to have physically possible, economically viable, and legally permissible. You know, that's just by definition what highest and best use is. And it's the economically viable for some of those types of things that is the question. Well, and obviously the legally permissible, but that's what we're discussing this evening.
This is Commissioner Hawley. Is the applicant still with us?
Yes, we are.
Would you answer Commissioner Musso's question about that traffic study, please?
Yeah, so it was done, I actually I can't remember the exact time. It was done maybe 3-4 years ago, I guess it's been. But to your point, regardless of the amount of traffic that is, you know, traffic inevitably has picked up a little bit, and we can update the traffic study. That's not a problem. But the point was, as the traffic engineers stood where the entrance would be, they determined that the curve was visible to a safe degree. So, I agree, there's probably more traffic, but can people see the cars coming in a safe distance? They determined the answer was yes.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, how would you feel if there was a traffic study done and it said that that was a safe corner? What would you say? I drive it every day too, but I don't pay that much attention there.
You're the problem.
I shouldn't say I drive it every day, but I'm very familiar with it.
But the problem is it's a high-speed corner.
Yeah.
If it was a 30 mile an hour or a 25 mile an hour road, then it wouldn't be an issue. And you can sit there and say, okay, yeah, traffic shouldn't be an issue until the guy coming around that corner at 45 or 50 miles an hour. That's the problem. And the traffic study guy is going to say, yeah, there's not a problem there because it's supposed to be a 35 mile an hour road, but nobody drives 35 miles an hour on it. That's the issue.
Yeah. So Commissioner Smith, what are we voting on tonight? Whether or not, I guess.
This is a general plan from low density to neighborhood commercial. So this is a general plan. So they would still have zone change and those items to go forth. But yeah, it's a.
So it's a general plan amendment, Commissioner Smith?
A change.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know where I'm at, but.
Further discussion and or a motion?
This is Commissioner Hawley. I'm going to make a motion whether it's popular or not with regard to a general plan amendment G-20-06 to change from low density to neighborhood commercial located approximately 200 South Washington Fields Road. Applicant Greg MacArthur. Greg, no disrespect, but my motion is that we do not approve this plan amendment, general plan amendment.
I'll second that. This is Commissioner Musso.
I have a motion and a second to.
Commissioners, can I chime in real quick? Sorry, Commissioner Smith, but any denials need a reason.
Yeah, I was getting there.
Thank you.
So I need a reason for that?
You should always state a reason on a denial.
Okay, my reason is just traffic. I don't like the fact that they can come out of that 660 egress and make a left-hand turn. If we could get around that, I could deal with it. But there's 3 or 4 lanes. They're going way faster than the posted speed limit. I'm there every day. I now take Merrill Road for that reason. I just see bad things happening with somebody not paying attention and coming out of that 660 and trying to cross all of those lanes and go north on Washington Fields Road. That's my problem.
This is only a zone change. This isn't necessarily a site plan approval. And if that's the concern, then I would make the recommendation that you would approve it with the condition that there's only right-in, right-outs onto the property.
No.
It's not a zone change, it's a general plan change.
Yeah, you're right.
So I stick with my motion and my reason as stated.
So I have a motion to recommend denial to City Council based on traffic. Commissioner Musso, do you?
Aye.
You still?
Oh, I second it.
Okay, you still second it with that, with that item? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the item? Not. Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Musso,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson.
I'm voting nay only because I do wish there was commercial there and worked out some way. I don't know what that would be, but I would like to see that.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith is a nay. The motion to recommend denial passes 3-2. Thank you. This will still go to city council. And when?
On the 23rd.
23rd. Okay, so that concludes our meeting. If any other discussion?
This Commissioner Hawley, so we just voted on 9, and it's going to go to city council as not approved.
Recommend
denial.
Right, denial. But then the next step is, so the city council will act on it, but can they still come back and ask for a zone change, or is that the end of it? Because I agree with Jason, if we could find the right fit there, and we could manage this traffic, I think that's a good corner it's a good fit for somebody.
Well, the only zone change they can ask for, Commissioner, currently is an R110 or an R112. That's it.
Okay.
So it's a residential again, which,
Won't work.
Yeah.
Okay, but the city council doesn't have to take our recommendation for denial.
That's correct.
Okay. So they may put some conditions on it that would work for these folks.
They may, or they may, go with your recommendation and deny it. That's their option to either uphold, overturn, or modify is their
Right.
three options.
Good. Okay, understand. Thank you, Drew.
Any other discussion? If not, I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Commissioner Hanson, so moved.
A motion by Commissioner Hanson,
Second.
By Commissioner Musso.
multiple people. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You're opposed? I don't care how long you stay on this meeting.
Good job, guys. Good job, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
We got a long meeting because we didn't meet 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
All right. Welcome back, Drew. Thanks, everybody.
Go ahead and blame me. I appreciate it.
And Doug, yeah. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
See ya.
Glad to meet y'all.
Good night, Doug.